Welcome back to Night Mind Live, and the much requested, long-awaited look at Vita Carnis. We went through the whole series, including the new episode opening Season 2, and I had a lot of thoughts about this one. It was hard not to stop and talk about it, honestly. That being said, the approach taken with hiding in my home has been taken here. You're going to get some main Nightmind moments summarizing, analyzing, and critiquing. This video calls for it, and I'd rather make discussion that occurred live more concise in this experience in the moments I can and ought to. You'll also see my editor's handiwork, who I'm always grateful to have, and may catch him flying in every now and then. Being in the Nightmind office tends to bring out the nocturnal side in anyone who enters, you see. Do enjoy your experience inside the world of living meat. Which is a misnomer, honestly. Meat always starts off living. Call that my first criticism going in, I guess. Vita Carnis, let's go. Plenty of warnings.
On planet Earth, life has thrived for millions of years. Creatures big and small have found ways to adapt and evolve to flourish in all types of environments. From barren wastes to lush forests, life can be found. Earth has homed these creatures since the dawn of life itself. Only until very recently, things have changed. New life forms have appeared all around the globe and completely changing the balance of nature and what we know about evolution itself. That is why we, at National Living Meat Research, have been studying these new species, trying to help educate everyone about these creatures and their wondrous ways of life.
Okay, well, you know, as a protein-centric kind of guy, I am not opposed to new forms of meat. Let's see where they go with this.
First, what are these new life forms? Since their explosive arrival across the globe in 1931, there has been much debate on what these newcomers are, and where they came from. Are they extraterrestrials coming to invade Earth? Or are they demons who come from hell to purge humanity? From what our scientists have discovered, no. The origins of these creatures are solely to Earth, miraculously out of nowhere. We don't know why or how, but one thing is for certain, Earth is now their home. What these creatures are is mysterious and still not well known today. But here is what we do know. These creatures are comprised mainly of muscle tissue, organs, and bones. They greatly resemble animals with no skin, or store-bought meat. Because of these characteristics, they have been named accordingly as Vita Carnis. The Carnis species consume decaying, organic matter, but their main diet is composed of raw meat, not including their Carnis relatives. The Carnis only appear in places where there is an abundance of crawl, which leads to the first creature of the Carnis species, the crawl. The crawl is a growth of meaty tendrils that closely resemble the small intestine, the only difference being the dark red coloration.
I actually really like that touch, that there is a drawing page for this, that somebody's actually sitting around sketching this kind of thing. I do enjoy that. Nice touch there.
Small intestine, the only difference being the dark red coloration. These tendrils grow in a similar pattern as vines, mold, or fungi. A primary stem structure is the host to divisions of other, smaller branches. In each tendril contains a variety of veins, arteries, and other similar organs used to transport nutrients absorbed from its surroundings. The ends of these tendrils are equipped with organelles used to absorb water and organic matter necessary for growth. The source of these organic materials is mainly found in dirt and soil on surrounding surfaces. Using its root-like tendrils, it absorbs the material and processes it into usable energy. Although, the crawl also obtains energy through another means. Using a sophisticated form of photosynthesis, the dark pigmentation of the smaller branches is ideal for absorbing sunlight, and therefore allowing solar energy to fuel the crawl's growth.
Okay, that's a very interesting organism then. So like photosynthetic energy and environmental intake. That would be extremely useful for any living thing at all. Wow. Also, little shout out to the bits of physical representation that we have seen here. Like, that's impressive. I actually don't know how that was rendered, but I'm into it. It's immediately eye-catching. It's the crawl. It's actually like it's representing what the crawl is in a way that your brain can really conceive it. You know, a lot of these analog horror projects, and granted, we understand in this field, we have limitations. There are lots of people making wonderful creative projects with limitations, and they have to find their way to work around these things. But many of these projects don't really have good representation of the paranormal elements that they are presenting in their story and in concept. Here, we very clearly have that, not just through the drawing, but through this kind of more physical representation of the crawl.
The dark pigmentation of the smaller branches is ideal for absorbing sunlight, and therefore allowing solar energy to fuel the crawl's growth. Because of its efficiency, it thrives in almost all types of environments, easily allowing it to spread across the world, and can be found pretty much anywhere. Its recent inclusion in the ecosystem has caused many major changes in nature's balance. One may assume that the crawl's presence may outcompete any other competitors, but due to its unique life cycle, where old branches fall off and decay into nutrient-rich compost, all forms of life seemingly flourish instead. The crawl's abundance grants plenty of nourishment to all animals, from plants feeding on the decayed crawl, herbivores thriving on increased plant population, and carnivores feeding on both the abundant prey, and are able to eat the crawl as well. The presence of all these animals leave behind waste, which will be broken down and consumed by the crawl, and the cycle begins again. This form of symbiosis leads to an environment where all populations thrive. Humanity.
That's not necessarily a good thing, depending on where it's happening, though. It could very much be used in ecosystems that are suffering or have greatly fallen behind, but that can very quickly create a population boom that throws the whole system out of whack. And that's beyond the initial point of what actually is this thing and should it be eaten at all. You know, just some natural scientific facts first, ma'am. And it's everywhere. And it keeps crawling into other places. Oh, that would be hell to manage. The amount of funding that would have to go into the Department of Environmental Management would be absurd. Starry Pawpads, thank you for the 8-bit saying, wow, this is way more in-depth than I expected. I love weird creature design with a deep dive into biology. I love it when it's done well myself. As far as analog horror goes, it's giving all the signs of, it's a lot of somebody's idea of analog tapes put together in order to serve an idea that they had, but the classic case with this is, alright, you've got your category of just how good it is in terms of analog technology and authenticity, and then you have next to it the pillar of, but how entertaining and engaging was it actually? So far, it's the second pillar that's filling up very quickly.
He also uses the crawl to our advantage. Because of the supernatural rate of growth and its richness in nutrients, it has been sustainably
Hold up. Radio tower overgrown with crawl. Well, yeah, that's kind of to be expected with something that manages to crawl absurdly fast and grow at a ridiculous rate.
And its richness in nutrients, it has been sustainably cultivated into domestic farms. The crawl is harvested and processed into fertilizer, which greatly increases crop yield and quality.
You can't tell me that somebody hasn't tried to, like, make crawl products. Like, you dry it out like it's jerky or something. Come on. You know, on the streets of New York, you're gonna be walking around, and there's a vendor with some crawl jerky for you. You get yourself some crawl jerky. They import it from Florida. They dry it out. They season it up. It's delicious, actually. It's weird, but it's delicious.
The crawl may also be used as a food source for humans, and reliably so. But due to its unkindly appearance and taste, it has yet to reach cuisine standards. The crawl also plays a very important role in the next creatures that we have been studying. Sometimes, in a crawl-populated environment, a node of meat may develop on one of the branches. This node will fall off and grow into a functioning organism, and go to live on as an independent animal. This leads us to the upcoming species that we will be discussing. The first of these creatures are the trimmings. The trimmings.
Instead of fruit, it produces animals. Okay.
The first of these creatures are the trimmings.
Once upon a time, there was a kingdom, and the kingdom was a little too difficult to make out. Interesting.
The trimmings. Trimmings are small animals that resemble skinned raccoons. They are commonly known to have a plump body, round head, small eyes, nose and ear holes, and an agape mouth. They are also equipped with a diversity of limbs. All individual trimmings are unique, each with a different body shape, number of limbs, and other characteristics. One thing they all share in common is that they are made mostly of meat tissue, and are a maximum of 20 centimeters in length, no larger than a basketball.
I'm gonna fry this thing up like a giant meaty tater tot and take a huge bite. You can't tell me that somebody hasn't made all sorts of meals out of these things. Bread it and stick it in the fryer.
Its life starts with its separation from the crawl. It will wonder to find anything that is edible and able to consume. Although it is an omnivore, being able to hunt meat and forage for plant matter, trimmings are almost entirely scavengers. Their diet consists of rotting plants and meat, including, but not limited to, fruits, vegetables, roots, seeds, insects, and deceased animals. Although its appearance is unsightly, it is a cowardly creature, only fleeing, screeching, and hiding when threatened. Because of its lack of defensive traits, it lies near the bottom of the food chain, making...
You know, this is not making a convincing argument for me against eating it. It's just activating my natural instincts, like feline-wise. The more that you describe it, the more I want to catch it and then fry it.
It easily overpowered and picked off very regularly by predators. Naturally, its population would eventually die out. This is not the case.
We're gonna be doing this a lot, aren't we? Mass trimming infestation. Estimated 400 plus trimmings gathered under a large abandoned satellite dish.
Is not the case. The crawl constantly produces a large quantity of trimming nodes, keeping up their numbers. Naturally, trimmings can be found wherever there is abundant crawl. Trimmings grow at a decent pace, reaching maturity at around 7 months, having a maximum lifespan of 2 to 4 years. Although they are plentiful, humanity has no proper way to implement trimmings into society. Their overabundance has even considered them pests, due to them digging through trash bins and making excessive noise at night. Besides all of this, some people still keep trimmings as pets, and relatively domestic.
Look at this fucking thing! Look at this! Oh my god, it is. It's like a skinless, hairless raccoon mixed with a rat. Oh my god, it's like, oh my god. It's like Rufus from Kim Possible. It's a large Rufus with extra limbs. I mean, yeah, it is kind of cute, Mr. Brooming, it is. Admittedly. Giant naked mole rat. Mm-hmm.
Nuisance or not, trimmings are a wondrous creature. From their plentiful numbers, to their skittish nature, they are truly a thing to behold. The next species on our list is the meat snake.
Are we gonna be allowed to keep watching this on Twitch?
The meat snake. The meat snake is a worm-like creature, made of a variety of types of meat, coated in a transparent, skin-like membrane. Its size varies during its lifespan, depending on how much it consumes. When it first separates from the crawl, it is only a few centimeters in length. Eventually, it will reach an average length of 5 meters. Although, under extreme conditions, like natural disasters, war, or plague, it can greatly surpass this length. Natural disasters, war, or plague, it can greatly...
Largest meat snake ever discovered. Oh boy. During a sweep of underground settlements made during the war, a massive sized meat snake was discovered stuck inside an underground railway. The beast was measured at a total of 40 meters in length. It is believed that bodies gathered during the war were fed to the creature, causing it to reach the unbelievable size. Cult activity. Okay, and here we go. 131 feet. Damn. So now it's like the worm from that one Men in Black movie when it was going after the subway. Photo dated 1947, so World War II. Okay, cult activity. I kind of wish I had one of Goose Boosie's analog horror bingo cards, so I could check off cult. There might be a cult square. There's probably a cult square for one of his randomized cards.
Surpass this length. The meat snake's diet consists entirely of dead animals or parts. A meat snake is incapable of consuming a healthy, living organism. The meat snake allocates its food by using a tongue-like organ covered in sensors to touch and feel its environment. The sensors catch particles of decaying meat, notifying the meat snake that there is food nearby. This process shares many similarities to regular snakes, hence the meat snake's name. Once it locates the corpse, the meat snake will open its jaw and swallow the entire body whole. Once the entire body is consumed, the meat snake's stomach will release a variety of chemicals. Some will break down soft tissue like skin and the connection points between muscles. Others chemicals will then ferment and preserve the tissue to keep it from breaking down for as long as possible. After that, the remaining flesh and bones will move along the meat snake's tract and slowly be implemented into its own structure, extending the meat snake. Unsatisfactory parts like skulls, pelvises, hair, and fingernails will be excreted. Speaking of skulls, the meat snake will take the skull from the consumed organism and use it as its own. Each meat snake has its own skull, each corresponding to what that one has consumed. During its lifespan, it will...
Okay, actually, I really like that touch of lore. That's pretty unique. That it takes like kind of the idea of a mollusk, but with the skull of something that it's eaten. That's kind of fucked up. I love it.
Swap or replace these skulls if needed. A meat snake's lifespan depends entirely on how much a meat snake consumes. The longest one has lived for was 28 years. The meat snake has no predators and is immune to disease due to its preserving chemicals. The only significant ways a meat snake can die is through starvation, burning, or complete destruction of the meat snake's membrane coating. Interestingly, the meat snake is the only member of the Carnis family that is able to reproduce. When a meat snake reaches an excessive size, and is in the conditions to do so, it will commence mitosis, splitting itself in two. Then the now two meat snakes will go on their separate ways and live on as two distinct organisms. Meat snakes can only be found in moderate temperature climates, not too hot, not too cold. Their population depends entirely on the amount of corpses available. Where there is death, there are meat snakes. Humanity will use them to our advantage. Meat snakes are a very efficient and clean way of disposing of any meat products. The preserving fluid within the meat snake's body disinfects the carrion, preventing the spread of disease. Humans use meat snakes in butcher shops as a waste bin, dispose roadkill, within war on the battlefield to dispose of festering bodies and parts, and within zoos to dispose of deceased animals. They are extremely tame, not caring if any creature is around them, only acting defensively when it is within consuming a meal. This means they are very easy to tame. Overall, meat snakes are a marvelous creature with a very interesting way of sustaining itself.
Okay, we've had some cool visuals so far, stuff that's applause-worthy. You know, really kind of sets this series apart from other attempts to do this sort of thing. But that right there, that is striking. That is a horse skull at the head of a meat snake. Imagine seeing that shit. Oh my god. Props to the creator for something that potent as a visual. If this is a passive gentle creature, I'm dreading the impending horrors of a Vita predator. Yeah, actually. That's a really good point. Because we've got quite a few other creatures to go through before we understand the full extent of how many things can come out of the crawl.
It is an amazing experience to encounter one, as long as you don't mind the smell. Our next creature is the mimic.
Hey, more storytelling. After being stranded at sea, the young prince eventually was cast to an island. Injured, the prince stumbled his way into a nearby cave. The prince used what magic he could to put himself into a healing sleep. Curious to see how this is going to come out.
The mimic. The mimic is a bipedal creature with uncanny similarities to humanoid anatomy. They
I already don't like it, and I really like that.
greatly resemble humans without skin, with added exaggerated features. These features include extended finger length, longer limbs, bulging, empty eyes, and their most prominent feature, a wide, teeth-filled smile. Although it resembles a happy face, this is due to coincidence, and is only how their facial structure is shaped. The maw of the mimic contains much more teeth than humans, and their teeth is comprised almost entirely of incisors, with some canine and premolars in the back. This tooth composition is ideal for biting down onto meat and swallowing chunks whole. A mature mimic's diet is comprised entirely of human flesh. Because of this, they are found solely around human-populated areas.
Okay, now that was some pure analog horror trope shit right there. I'm gonna go ahead and take a pause on that one, alright? Legitimately ask yourselves, what was that for? Who was that for? Why and did we need it? Granted, we have the interruptions that happen throughout the piece of little bits of backstory, and that's for us, right? I can't imagine that, at least there's no explanation yet of something in universe to elaborate on how that is a factor. It's actually brought up later, if memory serves. If that is explained later, then I'm gonna enjoy it. But for now, it's ringing so much of what I've seen in other analog horror projects where the tape is just allowed to run and linger there only because it's creepy. You know? Where everything else is going so right and there's just no reason why it should have just hung out there and all of a sudden the audio changes. Like, I could tell what you're doing, and it's not necessary because everything that you're describing is already so effective in the presentation and the idea of this thing that we don't need an ooky spooky moment like that where the audio just changes as the scene keeps on one frame. That's more creepypasta than anything else, and I don't say that in a flattering way.
Mimic's diet is comprised entirely of human flesh. Because of this, they are found solely around human-populated areas.
Like you felt that, right? Like, come on. Maybe that's scary if I'm a teenager watching horror online for the first time, but come on.
The mimic's life cycle is made of 3 stages. In the first stage, a young mimic separates from the crawl. They closely resemble their trimming relatives, but are thin, sleek, and only have 4 appendages. In this stage, the young mimic will hunt small animals, moving on to larger and larger as they grow. Once large enough, it will begin metamorphosis into the next stage of life. Once fully transformed, it will resemble the description mentioned in the beginning. Its hunting style changes and becomes much more complicated. It now stalks and feeds only on humans.
Okay, now you're redeeming yourself. Yeah. Now you're leaning on your strengths and really redeeming yourself. Hardcore and bringing that quality up.
It will locate human population. It now stalks and feeds only on humans. It will
Oh, that's just a busted frame. Okay.
It will locate human-populated area and begin its search for an easy target. To blend in, it may use objects to conceal itself. These include clothing, mannequins, and furniture. Once a target has been found, the mimic will observe its prey and learn its routine and when it is most vulnerable. This is typically when the human is asleep at night. Once the prey is within position, the mimic will advance silently until it is close enough. The mimic will then execute and immediately begin consumption. Once the mimic has had its fill, it will leave the scene, a fair distance away from the human population, and begin to digest its meal.
Okay, see, this is a lesson point that I'd like to go ahead and bring up here, alright? Everything there was just so let's watch this back real quick, okay? And keep in mind the tone of everything we've experienced so far, alright?
Furniture. Once a target has been found, the mimic will observe its prey and learn its routine and when it is most vulnerable. This is typically when the human is asleep at night. Once the prey is within position, the mimic will advance silently until it is close enough. The mimic will then execute and immediately begin consumption. Once the mimic has had its fill, it will...
Why did we need to experience that? When the visuals and the concept are so horrible in and of themselves, why did we need a hit of paranormal circumstances, it seems? Unless it's elaborated later that the idea of mimics themselves are a paranormal force, and mentioning them and their murders would then create this kind of effect in technology. The only thing you're achieving here is trying to bring up the spooky meter and rub something in. But then this...
leave the scene, a fair distance away from the human population, and begin to digest its meal.
Look at that. Look at that. That is completely within the style of everything here. The editing choices here are explained later, as Cynic Vagabond says. Okay, if there's an explanation for this, then I'm gonna go ahead and give it a nod. I do want to hear this explanation later. And I do want to be satisfied by this explanation. Right now, from where I'm sitting, the only thing that was really needed to hammer in the point is this great custom visual. Like, this alone is effective. Seeing this absolutely horrible thing just standing there among nature as everything flows by completely fine, that's effective to me. But I just really wanted to highlight that is now what we have within the project flow of actually watching it and exploring it. We've got the question, right, of why do things play out like that during the mimic section? Now it's up to the creator to answer in a satisfying way. Otherwise, it was just, well, it was spooky. Which you didn't need, because you've already got plenty of, wow, that's terrible, oh my god, get that away from me, through your own very strong skill set and unique presentation that other people simply do not have, that you have brought to the table for your concept in the form of the illustrations and the images. So let's keep going and see how that plays out.
Although, in the case that a human is awake, a mimic will use a variety of sounds to either lure or startle prey into cornering themselves. Once a human is in place...
Now that worked. I heard that from my left and somewhere behind me. That was good shit. Yeah, I'm about that. That was some good shit. And it works because it's not going out of its way. It's adding in the natural course of the toolkit of video work.
It will swiftly attack and kill the helpless target.
Holy fuck! Wow! 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 I mean... Marvelous. Oh, well, I did not expect live action footage. I did not expect physical, practical props. I didn't expect it to be pulled off all the way like that. Yeah, that was practical. That was practical. Look at that. That's gotta be. Let me get out of the way. Practical. You know what we call that? A thumbnail. Amazing. Wow. In my opinion, strongest part of the series is specifically the practical effects and artwork, as a lot of things in the series are props and puppets. Music to my ears. Yes, like Lord Cryptid said, practical effects and horror, my beloved. What a payoff. Hello, I'm Reagan says, Vita Carnis dude is doing more interesting things with practical effects than many professional studios. Yeah, and look at that. Look at the replay here. People have replayed the shit out of this, and it's clear why. My god. That's so fucked up. I can't leave that on the screen like that. Let's put it on the hand. Look at that hand, too. I love that. Yeah, so I was not expecting live action. I wasn't expecting out of this. This explains some things. Vita Carnis, as a series, with the presentation that it's had so far, with the artwork that it's had, and the photographs, it's easy enough to understand how it got its popularity. But to the tune of 2.7 million views and just like major ranting, raving love for it, not until you see this do you understand how it got its reputation and the traction. Like, wow, what a massive jump in presentation and showcasing your ability and understanding of horror. Because the format that it's been working with has been okay. It's definitely, you know, in terms of the column of how analog technology is your analog horror, it's a lot of, you get a D on a rubric. Frankly, you know, it's not passing that test. But everything else that's happening here is working for it, especially this. What a knockout. Tay says, for me it's the world building and fun evolutionary biological outline of everything. It perfectly toes the line of otherworldly and grounded. It's certainly doing that. And building a good, convincing analog horror in terms of actually making the analog authenticity of your presentation work is a feat. That is a challenge. Most people cannot actually step to that. A lot of analog horror is developed because it is extremely accessible for people. There's even the factor of you don't have to pull out a camera, right? But here's the thing. The creator of Vita Carnis did pull out a camera and so much more for this entire segment that just showed exactly what they're capable of. And I love it. Immediate elevation of the quality and potency of this project. Bravo. That's some good shit. The question was raised earlier of, you know, but how did this get into the works? Which, again, yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, I'm gonna need some explanation here in order to justify the inclusion. Because the work here is fantastic, but then it's like, okay, in terms of your formatting though, we have these questions and it's like, can you actually make the picture fit cohesively rather than a bunch of parts? So we're gonna see, and I'm rooting for them. And look at that.
The next stage of the mimic's life cycle has two potential morphs it may develop into. If a mimic has a consistent supply of food, it will develop more human-like features. It will grow skin, hair, and by the end will look nearly identical to a human being. It now can blend entirely into civilization and lure other humans more effectively. The second type of morph happens when a mimic receives an overabundance of food. It will grow into a larger, more evolved hunter. Its proportions will increase in length, and its humanoid features will fade away. It grows a thick, dark coating of a flexible skin, which is highly durable, and increases in strength the more the elder mimic consumes. This excludes the face, which is now coated in a pale pink skin. The mimic's teeth have also moved deeper into the mimic's throat, leaving its mouth a toothless grin.
You know, you all keep hinting that there is an explanation for this. I'm thinking right now scenarios in which this could all be explained, including the drawings, and what's giving the game away the most is this. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and indulge you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and play detective early a little bit. This right here, all of these photographs that are being pulled into the media and then labeled photographed by so-and-so, that all has to come from different sources. Like, none of this is professional, right? Your analog horror here is not very analog technology in terms of, can I buy it? Because it's nowhere near the kind of professionalism of, say, an actual information tape that is distributed to an organization or an agency or the public. But perhaps that is the point. Maybe that's what's going on here, is that this is not being produced by anybody professional at all for any kind of professional organization. This could simply be a production to a point to fulfill a need by somebody who does not have the skill sets of an organization and would potentially have access to their own footage. So, I'm seeing the circumstances by which this can make a ton of sense and really work. But you guys are all teasing me saying, you'll see. You'll see. So you know what? We're gonna hold on and we will see.
Pink skin. The mimic's teeth have also moved deeper into the mimic's throat, leaving its...
Yeah, that's not the drawing of anybody other than the average person who needed to make some field drawings. Yep, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it come together already.
Mouth a toothless grin. It uses the dark hue of its skin to hide seamlessly within a dark environment. Its skills have also been heightened. This makes an elder mimic one of the most efficient predators on the planet. Because of the obvious threat this poses on humanity, nations around the world have released instructions on how to be able to fend for yourself in a mimic encounter. Here are the instructions.
1. Avoid going out alone if your location is known to have mimics, or there have been mimic sightings.
Hold on, who sent out this warning notice?
Its skills have also been heightened. This makes an elder mimic one of the most efficient predators on the planet. Because of the obvious threat this poses on humanity, nations around the world have released instructions on how to be able to fend for yourself in a mimic encounter. Here are the instructions.
Okay, nations.
1. Avoid going out alone if your location is known to have mimics, or there have been mimic sightings. 2. If you encounter a stationary mimic, seemingly unfazed by your presence, quietly leave the location and alert your local authorities. 3. If pursued by a mimic, get yourself into a position where you are able to flee. Mimics will rarely attack if a person has a clear escape route. 4. In the event that you have been cornered by a mimic, roll into the fetal position, protecting your neck, face, and vital organs from attack. Make as much noise as you can to alert any other people. 5. If you have a weapon, do not use it. A mimic is fairly resilient, and any strikes or shots on a mimic is not effective enough to bring it down in time. Instead, use it as a barrier between you and the mimic to block any attacks. 6. In a situation...
6. Die. It just sounds like she's trying not to say, you're just fucked. Goodbye.
where a mimic is hunting in the immediate area, and is not aware of your position, hide somewhere low, like under a bed or behind other furniture. A mimic will not linger too long to search for prey, and will move on.
Be safe, and avoid any encounters with a mimic at all costs. Next up, the harvester.
The fucking what?
Harvester.
Oh, the harvester.
Next up, the harvester.
But the prince's sleep was long. He slept for what seemed like forever. As he slept, the land around him changed and grew. It was unrecognizable from when the prince first arrived, but the sleep still needed time to heal the prince, much more time. But it kept the prince safe while he rested, guarding him from the elements as the land changed. Okay.
The harvester. The harvester is a large, bulbous mass, with a large amount of tendrils spreading from the base. The bulb measures around 3 meters in height and 2 meters in diameter. The tendrils, on the other hand, can extend up to 150 meters in diameter horizontally. The harvester is a specialized form of crawl that grows in a unique and deadly way. A harvester is created when a node, that will grow into a harvester, instead of separating, continues to grow. Eventually, it will grow tendrils of its own. It uses the energy provided by its mother branch and expands its reach further. Its tendrils, hidden just below the surface of the ground. The harvester is equipped with 2 types of specialized tendrils. The first type is bulky and flat. They lie the closest to the surface. These branches are lined on each length of the tendril with spines, extending in the shape of a bear trap. On each side of the branch, those particular spines have a vein that feed into them, that pump 2 types of venom. On one side, the spines can inject a neurotoxin, which will attack the nervous system of whomever it is injected into, causing sudden paralysis. The other side can inject an anticoagulant, which when injected, prevents blood cells from clotting. Whenever a large animal moves across the area armed with these tendrils, the branches will clamp onto the animal and thrash violently. Once the prey has been injected with both venoms, the tendrils will rest and the prey will immediately collapse. The animal will be unable to move due to the paralysis, and the wounds caused by the thrashing spines will not stop bleeding. All the prey can do is lie patiently, until succumbing to blood loss. Once the prey has bled out, the second type of tendrils come in. They lie below the spine equipped once. These branches are thick, but very sturdy. They share similar anatomy to the small branches of the crawl, equipped with organelle that absorbs nutrients. These tendrils sense the blood, and move their way to the surface and begin to absorb the vital fluid. Once the blood has been consumed, the tendrils will wrap around the body and begin to shuffle downwards. This movement loosens the soil and slowly pull the body underground. Once secure, the tendrils will continue to feed until there is nothing but scraps. The nourishment absorbed by the tendrils will be sucked back into the main bulb of the harvester. This bulb houses all the vital organs and the venom glands that pump into the spines. The nutrients are then converted into usable energy. The remains underground decompose, providing a rich soil, causing very prominent plant growth, which then attracts more animals. A strange behavior the harvester displays is its choice of diet. The spines will only activate on larger animals, allowing smaller ones to pass by unaffected. The spines will also not activate on some species of bird. There are a couple theories as to why this happens. One, it could be that attacking smaller animals would cost too much energy for what they get in return, making it not worth the time. Another, could be that smaller animals may attract larger animals or predators, allowing a safe place where prey may thrive, and lure more predators. It truly is astonishing.
The harvester does not enjoy snacks. It just doesn't do snacks. It also doesn't do a lot of birds. It's very picky about bird taste.
Although it is a spectacular creature, it is also very dangerous. The harvester is decently rare, only populating sparse areas in the northern hemisphere and woodland forests.
You know what? That's a unique touch of lore. That means that it can't manage to survive in hotter climates, except for somewhere in South America. Interesting. Huh.
Sphere and woodland forests. If you are stung by a harvester, there will be no way of helping you, being that there is no cure, and fatality is 100% positive.
Just once, can we have an analog horror project that just basically says, if this happens, you are fucked. Do not attempt to run. You are already fucked. Family attacked by harvester while hiking. Authorities refuse to handle the harvester, only putting up warning signs and expressing to the public to be more careful.
The best thing you can do is avoid encountering a harvester in the first place. If you are hiking, take note of any warnings or signs saying that there are harvesters around. If you also notice an abundance of lush, ground-dwelling plants in a forested area, and there are no signs of wildlife, this is suspicious and you should leave the area, staying close to the base of large trees or rocks. If you find yourself in the middle of a harvester ground, do not panic. Sudden movements may activate the tendrils and will inject you. Although a harvester is rather forgiving, do not risk any skittish movements. Remain calm. If you have any objects with considerable heft, like coats, backpacks, or full water bottles, gently take that object and lightly toss it towards the bulb, and away from your escape route. This will activate the spines on where the object lands, distracting the bulb for a moment. You will then slowly begin to do wide shuffles away from the bulb. If possible, throw another object when you are certain you are a fair enough distance away, just to be safe. Continue until you are completely sure you are out of harm's way. You may come out unscathed, but don't be too obnoxious, or you will be a harvester's next meal.
What I really like about the harvester here, besides its anatomy explanation, is that picture. That's, like, it does stick out, but it's still one of the more potent photos. And the real horror of this situation, you've got to say, is oh, that is why it only lives in forest areas. That's why. For the reason I was about to say. The leaves. When the trees go through autumn and drop their leaves, it covers up the tendrils. You will not catch it. You will not see it. The leaf bed covers it up. That's why it only manages to survive in these climates. It needs the ground cover, like we see in this picture. That's the reason. That's very clever. That's very clever. They left us to figure that one out. That is some puzzle solving they gave to us. I really appreciate that kind of respect for the viewership, to just leave a factor of, hey, why is it a certain way, and just to understand through just the photo and its locations. I've given that props. That's good writing. Very good writing on that front.
Next up is the host. The host.
Something during a time of hardship. The critters were struggling. There was barely any food to go around. They would go and gather whatever something. So, some sort of starving creatures in the vicinity of the prince, sleeping to heal whatever was going on with him.
The host of influence. The host of influence, more commonly referred to as the host, has its name derived from a host who invites guests to an event. Not to be confused with a host, a harborer of parasites or disease. The host is a semi-humanoid looking organism. It has the structure of a head, torso, and arms. Other than this, it shares no other characteristics. The lower half of the host is comprised of a mass of fibrous tissue and tendrils that burrow into the ground to hold the host in place. Instead of skin, the host is covered in muscular tissue fibers, tendons, and veins. In some parts of the body are covered in a meaty plate, used to cover any large exposed areas, but allowing movement. The host's head has a smooth surface where the face should be, attached to a crooked neck, which houses a slit in the front used for feeding. On the host's back is a mound of pores. Protruding from these pores are hollow, hair-like structures, extending outwards. These hairs are barrels that release spores produced within host's body by being fired into the air. These spores are hazardous, so keep clear of them at all costs. Luckily,
Infected people? Might be infected people there.
Luckily, the host is rare, only found in North America. Obtaining info about the host is a very risky and daunting task. This is because of their rarity and of how dangerous it is to be up close to one. The spores released by a host is very dangerous when inhaled. A host will release a cloud of spores into the air, which will be picked up by wind and carried great distances. If an organism inhales the spores, the particles will find their way into the organism's brain and infect them. An infected organism will show no symptoms of infection right away, but a couple hours after infection the infected organism's behavior and thought process will change. The first symptoms that appear are restlessness, sluggish movement, numbness of joints, and lack of coordination. Then more serious symptoms appear over time. These include dizziness, migraines, impaired speech, and trembles. If you, or someone you know show these symptoms, contact poison control or emergency services. After a total of 6 to 7 hours after infection, the organism will cease all activities they were previously doing and begin to walk. The direction the infected will walk is towards the host whose spores have been inhaled by the infected individual. If the infected makes their way to the host, they will kneel down in front of it, expose their vital organs, and the host will promptly gut and remove those organs. The host will consume them and discard the leftover scraps. However, if an infected organism doesn't reach the host within a 36-hour span or is treated for their infection, the effects will wear off and return back to normal. If a host is unable to find prey or doesn't like its current location, it will unroot itself and move to a new location. Their scarce numbers and the hazard of being around one makes getting info about the host very daunting. All you need to currently know is that the host is extremely dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. Next, the monoliths.
Alright, we'll go to the original for the monolith, but let's catch what this is. Chucko1980 says, I like how outside the mimic, these all seem to take strong inspiration from awful but true things in real life nature. That is something to enjoy. That we can kind of relate this back to certain things that have been observed and just taken to a more horrible conclusion. Okay, this page reads, although one day the critters found the cave while searching for food, they found the prince entranced in his healing sleep. The critters were so awestruck and enchanted by the prince's magic. Monoliths. Let's go to monoliths.
The monoliths. The monolith is a very new creature, only showing up in June of 1972, in the area of. There are only 7 monoliths, all of them located in a circular position, 1.5 kilometers in diameter. This ring of monoliths surrounds. The monolith is a Titanic-sized being, measuring roughly 120 meters in height. Each monolith has 2 trunk legs that are firmly embedded underground. The legs connect to a torso. The creature itself is made of hundreds of thousands of meaty strands, tightly woven together to form the structure. These strands end at the neck, fusing into a solid mass of hardened flesh in the shape of an upside-down triangle, with a hole in its center. On each side of the monolith where arms would be, there are dozens of long, rope-like appendages. These reach just barely to the ground. At the creature's feet, the strands go deep into the earth and extend horizontally a decent distance away. What the monoliths do is simply stand and do nothing. The only activity documented that the monoliths have done was in. During this period, they were extremely aggressive. When the group of were making their way to the city, the monolith.
Could you not, dude? Because you clearly did not understand audio leveling. Like, ow, my fucking ears, man. Like, I got stronger ears here, man. I've got bat ears mixed with cat. Like that was not pleasant.
That they had passes roared a deep bellow and swung its appendages at the team, completely wiping them out. When military vehicles were dispatched, once they got close enough top the monolith, it roared another call, this time releasing an EMP blast, completely knocking the vehicles out in the vicinity. Finally, long-distance rockets were fired and struck the creature. Although damaged, it regenerated at great speed, and resumed its stance unscathed. Eventually, the area has been fenced off and is now restricted to all. Ever since, the monoliths stand silently, now only a grand spectacle of awe and mystery, only adding more questions to these meat beings. And finally, the last creature on this list is marvelous and majestic.
Who is this creature? Why are they here? Are they dangerous? A thought was brought up. What if this creature could use this magic to help them? It may grow food or heal sickness. They continued to argue about the prince and his magic. Something, and the majority of the creatures agreed that the prince was dangerous and should not be meddled with. Okay.
Marvelous and majestic world that exists today. It's as extraordinary to have such strange and mysterious beings appear all around us. Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration.
Is the final organism the planet itself now? Is that the implication?
World that exists today. It's as extraordinary to have such strange and mysterious beings appear all around us. Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration and discovery of the lives of these living meat creatures.
The big steak looking item here is kind of throwing off the seriousness. Now we have more. Okay. Good instinct for me to go back. Okay, this is where I'll cut in, and thanks to my editor for the zoom in on this card. The singularity is an orb comprised of a dark something with hints of luminous colors within its core. The singularity is estimated to be 1 meter in diameter. The orb has several unique qualities that are not well understood. The singularity typically can be found suspended in air by an unseen force. There are also a variety of readings that have been documented coming from the orb itself. Various things like magnetic fields, energy suppression, and other pattern-like signals released by the singularity. The population of these creatures is unknown. Almost all info about the singularity is hidden or confiscated by officials. We were only able to receive one classified document about the singularity being held by Redacted. This brings us to the end of the documentary portion of Vita Carnis, and I felt while watching uninterrupted that it ran a little long, and not in a way that's truly flattering in terms of matching its format. It's reminiscent of more boring documentary videos by its pacing and inability to be concise. That's not in the project's favor here. Something that's going to come up again later is how the presentation throughout the project is genuinely not meeting the mark of analog horror, just serving the very known style of analog horror ideas back when the term came up and started being used everywhere. Does the creator of Vita Carnis even call their project analog horror? It's attempting the aesthetic, but the digital elements are too obvious. What's more difficult in justifying this as analog horror is the premise of it coming from National Living Meat Research and the bunch of federal warnings at the start. This is meant to be an organization affiliated with the government, and the official tapes came out like this? Playing up to these ideas can be tough for a beginner to video work, that's for sure. But this is one of the hardest sells I've seen out of projects. The saving grace I theorized was that maybe it's not official at all. It's just a bunch of media coupled together by a lone individual who's unskilled at video work and they distributed this somehow, but it would need its own justification to make me believe that.
This could be the greatest discovery of the age.
Baby. Let this feeling in.
Have any information of the whereabouts of...
Wanted by the CSIS, Vincent Ferrer from Canada. Okay. Well, we've got a character. Hey, we got a character.
Be making a dish that has recently gained a fair amount of popularity. Today's dish will be a cheesy crawl penne.
It's time to cook some trimmings.
These will be the ingredients you will need. 3 cups of penne pasta. Roughly 3 cups worth of fresh crawl. Try to get a variety of sizes when you buy yours, or when you harvest them yourself. 1 cup of cheese. Half a cup of green onion. 1 teaspoon of salt. 2 tablespoons of Cajun spice. 2 tablespoons of parsley. 1 tablespoon of dill. 1 tablespoon of garlic. A pinch of pepper. And finally, the most crucial ingredient, Nocturne Company's newly released Flavor Enhancer. To bring out the richness of flavors within each and every meal.
Alright, who's bringing this to Thanksgiving? It's about to be September. We gotta start thinking about these things in advance, alright? Who's gonna bring the crawl?
First, get a medium-sized pot and fill half of it with water. Add a pinch of salt, which is used to help the pot come to a boil faster and help flavor the pasta. Then, set aside to boil. Grab your crawl and a sharp knife. Begin to cut the meat into a rough mince.
Okay, so now we have to ask ourselves, looking at this, what did they use to make it? Because this can't, of course, just be like they got some pieces of lobster or something that just is a recognizable portion of the animal. It's gotta be something that's wrapped in something else, I think. Organic meats, plastic, rhubarb likely. Bell pepper wrapped in saran wrap. Scorn says it was just beef covered in a plastic bag, if I remember. That would make some sense.
Crawl is soft on the outside, but the interior has a surprising sturdiness.
How appetizing. A normal human cutting, yep.
Then, gather the meat and set aside.
Oh yeah, it's ready for Food Network.
Mince the green onion into rough segments.
MA3, thank you for the 12 months. Not
Take
the time to
this
eat
mince
ice cream.
and set aside as well. Next, grab your skillet and preheat with along some oil.
Yum.
Take your minced crawl and spread it evenly across the skillet. Stir occasionally until crisp and brown.
Welcome in, Sammy Witchy.
As your water reaches a boil, add your penne and stir occasionally. Cook until soft. At this time, your crawl will be brown and crisp. Add your minced green onion and then the spices.
You guys notice the steam effect too,
Mix
huh?
well. Once your pasta is finished cooking, strain it. Lay your cooked penne evenly into your dish. Then add the crawl topping.
But did you season yet?
Sprinkle a generous amount of cheese along.
Wait, what? A gas mask?
Lay your cooked penne evenly into your dish.
Oh, yeah. Why? Respirator, not a gas mask. Why indeed?
Then add the crawl topping. Sprinkle a generous amount of cheese along the still warm crawl for it to melt. At this point, finish preparing the dish with your flavor enhancer, but allow your dish to cool to a temperature below 60 degrees Celsius, or else the enhancer will not work.
Is the enhancer a deactivator for whatever is toxic about the crawl? Is that what that is?
And now, you may serve and enjoy.
Yay! Although the other critters ignored the rest of their fellow kind, instead they secretly visited the slumbering visitor. They snuck what little food they had and carefully fed it to the prince, greatly hastening their recovery.
Many people get pet.
Luke also says, also the fact that it tells you to cook under a certain temperature implies that the flavor enhancer is probably a living thing that will die if it's too hot. Yeah, the temperature thing is very sus, as well as the flavor enhancer. There's just something about that whole picture, especially with the respirator, that tells us it's maybe not safe at all to eat this thing.
Pets for companionship. They form bonds and grow relationships with these animals, even to the point of them being considered a part of the family. Most people get dogs or cats, but maybe you want something more interesting. Then, you may want to get yourself a trimming. These lumps of meat have grown a reputation to be a loving companion for many people in the recent months. Although, most people may not know the proper ways to care for them. Today, we will be showing you how you can care for your pet trimming. Taking care of a trimming is fairly easy, but this is no reason to slack off. They are living things and do require maintenance. The first—
Oh my god, it's such Rufus from Kim Possible. That is like straight up naked mole rat face.
First thing to keep in mind when keeping a trimming is the temperature of your home. While trimmings are resilient to both high and low conditions, you want to keep your base temperature near room temp, maybe slightly cooler. That being said, Trimmings prefer warmer areas to nest. A simple setup you may use is a box with some blankets on the inside. Make sure there is enough for your trimming to cover itself. And now you have a comfy bed for your buddy. Next, you want to give your trimming the best diet possible. Trimmings are not picky eaters and will eat anything you give them. To keep your trimming healthy and strong, a diet of dry cat or dog food that is high in protein, provided 2 times a day, is best. As a treat, you may give your trimming any scraps of your food.
Angelica! With a little flower. Do they take Angelica on walks? Does Angelica have a girly girl collar? I hope she does.
Things like apple cores, banana peels, or eggshells are a perfect snack. A thing to remember is trimmings are nocturnal and make plenty of noise. To prevent you from having sleepless nights, try to give your trimmings first meal in the late morning or afternoon. This helps them be active during these times instead. Another thing to consider if you want a pet trimming is where they will be living. Your home should have enough space for your trimming to roam around, as well as access to the outdoors, like a backyard. If not, be sure to take your trimmings on regular walks. This gives your trimming the exercise they need, as well as allowing them to meet other trimmings.
I love this video. So, this is the kind of thing where you can see it was a valiant, legitimate attempt to render the trimming as they best could without literally incorporating raw meat. And still, they understood at the end, just sitting back and looking at it, it's like, this is so fucking goofy. How are we supposed to sell this? And they just enjoyed themselves with it. It's like, you can't really sell this super legitimately, so you're just gonna have fun with it while trying to play into some legitimacy. And I love that approach. It's very much the creator here understanding. Did the best I could. Still looks like a silly puppet. So let's have fun with the silly puppet. And just make this in-universe video for a trimming because of pets. And indulge the comment section that said up and down they wanted a trimming pet. And my heart goes out for that kind of commitment to the bits and a recognition of the opportunity to serve the audience and have a little bit of fun with what it is that you're doing while still keeping in universe. Applause for that.
Trimmings are a social creature and need to interact with others of their kind, like how they do in the wild. When it comes to entertainment, trimmings are not the most active and aren't the best at fetch or tug of war. But here are other ways to keep your trimming entertained.
You see what I mean?
Some toys that trimmings like are little items they can push, around, pull, or carry. Trimmings also enjoy things that you enjoy as well, like watching the television or listening to the radio. They love seeing and listening to all the funny things coming from the devices. After a long day, your trimming might be dirty and need a wash. To clean them, start your bath with a gentle warm water mixed with a bit of hand or body wash. Gently scrub the trimming's feet, armpits, belly, and neck fold.
Okay, guys. You would know right off the bat, because you've been following it. Has the creator launched a makeshift campaign for a trimming plush? Because I will be stunned if it has... Yes? Yeah! I can just call these things now. This is just how it works now, people. It's just how it works. But you know what? Finally, there is some form of creators getting a fucking bag for the good work that they have done. And I love that. I'm all for that. You know what? If it's a whole bunch of creators hitting it out of the park and Makeshift comes knocking, hello? We see you've had an internet viral sensation. Would you like to do business? So fucking be it. So fucking be it. I immediately thought, there's a trimming plush, isn't there? So I'm glad to know that there is in fact a trimming plush. Oh, good point, Luke. Saying, remember how for the trimming video it said there was a trimming infestation under a radio station and it says they enjoy listening to the radio. The trimming plushies somehow look even uglier. I love them. Okay, you know what? Hold on. Let me go on a quick scouting mission. Look at this thing. Oh my god. There it is. There's your trimming. 2,200 sold. Nice. Knocked it out of the park. There's a mimic coming on September 7th. And meat steak, glow in the dark long boy. Glow in the dark. Oh. Cool. But yeah, the trimming plush. And hey, September 7th, you can get the mimic. So keep an eye on Darian's faces. There's a link tree there. But no, what I saw here was Darian's art. Like these detailed art pieces. Just a little baby.
Remember to be careful around their face and avoid getting soap in their eyes, nose, and mouth. Gently pat dry with a towel when done. Now your buddy is all clean. And lastly, as said before, trimmings are social creatures, so be sure to give them plenty of affection. They love receiving pats, scratches, and pets. They also love to sit with you and cuddle. Since they communicate with each other in the wild, it is best to replicate this behavior with them as well. Simply talking to them is plenty enough. You can talk about your day, if anything interesting happened at work, if you are working on any new recipes, or talk about the weather. Trimmings are very good listeners and love to be involved. With all of these in mind, you are now well equipped to have a trimming become a part of the family.
You just know that one shot is somebody's profile picture out there.
Do things right, and you will have a companion for a long while.
One day, the prince awoke suddenly. Thanks to the critter's assistance, the healing process had finished very quickly. The prince had fully recovered, and was now fully awake and aware of their surroundings. Surprised by the sudden awakening, the critters ducked and hid from the prince's sight. Light Merlin says lifespan increased from the documentary. Wonder if that's on purpose or a mistake. But with how clever some of the writing has been here, in things unspoken, it's probably intentional. You know what? Good point, actually. From Otil, most pets live longer when well looked after in a domestic environment when compared to the wild. True, true. Okay, so this is supposed to be federal footage? Alright.
In the year of 1945, with the war finally ended, the cleanup process had started. During routine sweep of an underground train tunnel, the cleanup crew made a grotesque discovery. Found completely filling the tunnel was a meaty wall, and in the center of the mass was an opening with several skulls surrounding it. Closer inspection of the blockage revealed that the mass was actually an extremely engorged meat snake. Its impeccable size had blocked off the entirety of the tunnel's path. There was many strange things with this creature. First was the coloration. A typical meat snake's color is bright reds and light browns. This particular meat snake was a very deep maroon. Another strange thing about it was its behavior. This creature barely moved. Meat snakes are normally sluggish and encumbersome, but the specimen discovered seemed to lack even basic motor functions. Its behavior was that of a plant's.
7 skulls. 7 monoliths, 7 skulls.
With only minor movements within. One would assume it was dead. The reason the meat snake may act this way may be because it was completely lodged in place and minimized movements to conserve energy. But how would it have gotten this deep into the tunnel in the first place? And by the looks of weathering, it had been in there for quite some time. So how did it get so large? The answer was discovered by a different cleaning crew, who found the other end of the tunnel. They followed it until it met with the other end of the meat snake. Alongside it was a huge pile of
corpses. Yeah, so? Okay. That's not out of the norm for anything we've experienced so far. Just say corpses.
This meat snake's skin also displayed great amounts of resilience. It took several days of cutting to even obtain a sample. Here, you can see the clear difference between this meat snake specimen versus a normal meat snake's membrane. Testing on the sample showed that it had great immunity to damage. It tolerated extreme freezing temperatures, extreme heat temperatures, and even high doses of radiation. It is a wonder how such durability can occur in an organic creature. Another strange phenomenon is the smell off the skin. Normally, it would have a sour smell of rotting flesh. But the specimen displayed a rather pleasant smell, like that of cooking scrambled eggs. Meat snake was later discovered to be missing by unknown survivors. How the meat snake grew in size was discovered to be...
Okay, why is the tape all fucked up? One of the critters built up the courage to meet the now awake stranger. They crawled to the prince's side and extended their hand in friendship. The prince reached back, and together they had formed a bond that will change their fates. Okay, I know a big component of doing analog horror for people is that if they are not used to doing video work or audio work or any sort of making video things, that it's easily accessible, they just kind of plug and play with a little bit of learning. That being said, in order to maximize the enjoyment for the viewership, you would do well to learn how to temper your audio and just really treat the video making process as kind of an art form, because it is. And sometimes people don't want their ears blown the fuck out by emergency alert system noises or huge hits of static. Okay? So, at the very least, what you could do is learn how to see the audio in your editor and see if there is a portion of the audio in a clip that is significantly lower or louder than the others around it, and then adjust that so it doesn't send us flying back in our seats, immediately displeased with the experience you're providing. Okay? Okay. Let's keep going. There are tutorials on YouTube. They're free. There's plenty of them for whatever editor that you're working in. Go ahead. Do a search. Please. That's not me asking. That's me telling you. Do a search. Please.
As of the time of this video's release, we have been facing a concerning increase of missing persons and fatalities on a global scale. The reason for this is because we are under attack. We have discovered that there has been a significant growth of mimic populations, which is threatening public safety. National leaders have released this instructional recording to teach you on how to defend yourself. Here is what you need to know about the threat. Mimics are humanoid, intelligent predators that are highly adaptive and feed solely on human prey. Mimics gain information on people by watching their daily lives and pick to hunt people when they are most vulnerable. The most common times a mimic will attack is when you are asleep, that walking alone, or in a cornered position. Mimics are cautious and calculative creatures, taking precautions to ensure a successful hunt. They utilize various tactics to capture a person by surprise. One of the more well-known tactics is hiding itself inside of furniture, to blend into its environment. Common objects that mimics can hide inside are sofas, recliners, wardrobes, ottomans, and other places a mimic can comfortably wait.
Oh, that is so fucked. Look at that. Especially that one on the left. Oh. That's haunting. Okay, yeah, wow. They're not in your walls, they're in your chair. Which is a little more fucked up, isn't it? Sitting on a mimic for hours at a time, not even knowing. Oh, I love the long, nasty, spindly fingered hands. That is so effective. It makes you want to get one for yourself and try it on to play around with, like that Freddy Krueger glove kind of temptation, right? Like, please let me slide on that glove and just see what that's like to play around with that. Ambry Christine Sky says this video has words where the other one paused, maybe indicating the other one was tampered with, not just creepy. Could be. For a federal release tape, once again, it has the issue of this does not seem to be any sort of professional.
Mimics are able to contort their body in ways that allow them to fit inside smaller places. They also use it to expand their body, making themselves appear larger for intimidation. Another method mimics use to blend in is their ability to put on and wear clothing. Mimics put on layers of shirts, pants, and jackets to hide their bright red skin and blend into densely populated areas. In very rare cases, mimics can develop and grow to look very similar to human beings. Pairing this with clothing, it can be very hard to tell the difference between a mimic and a person right away. If you are unsure if a person is a mimic, look out for key features that may reveal their true form.
Oh! Can we not do this for the 15th time in this subgenre, please? I'm getting tired of this, guys. Aren't we getting tired of this trope? Please? How many times? How many times are we gonna do a lineup of freaky-looking, almost human beings warning people to study the appearance in case they are mistaken as legitimate human beings when they are a look-alike threat that wants to invade your world and fuck up your family? How many times are we gonna do this, man? How many times? Even the lineup and formatting of this, like, even the shit with, what is it, Blue Channel? With all the different diseases that can be inflicted on you, it's like, this format is so... This could be a fucking meme template at this point, man. Come on. Come on. I can't help myself, man. I've seen so much of this. I constantly see this shit, dude. You're getting into the point of being on par with fucking binary codes back in the Slenderverse days. Like, come on. Hang up this format. Let's get a little bit more creative than this, please. God, I had that inside of me for so long. It felt like I just... Oh, thank God. What a fucking relief. When did this come out compared to the others? Let's take a look. Halloween of 2022. Come on. Luke says, the Mimic is the weakest creature because it's the one that looks so much like the rest of generic analog horror stuff, but it makes up for it for great live action stuff. The Mimic is actually one of the most impressive versions of this thing. Not simply for the live action stuff, but for the actual illustrations like that. It's fucking cool, you know? And yeah, don't think that I'm drinking the haterade all of a sudden just based on this. This is literally just one of those things where it's like, oh my god, can you not do this? Please. This is not tackle the project, don't worry. I really needed to rip that one off already.
Look for abnormal facial features, like large, bulbous eyes, flat noses, wide mouths in an uncanny smile, and clammy skin. Also pay attention to other exposed body parts like hands. Mimic people will have long fingers with no fingernails. If you are unable to see their face or hands, watch their walking pattern. Mimics' legs are long and hunched. Their walking will be unusual and irregular. Here is what you do if you are met with a mimic. If it stands before you, do not panic. Stand your ground and try to appear larger. Wave your hands and make plenty of noise. Maintain.
They must have been tempted to make that stick figure T-pose for this segment and had to really resist the urge. Because that's the first thought that comes to mind here is, what if I make a T-pose?
Maintain eye contact. A mimic will hesitate to attack a potential threat. If you are armed with a weapon, aim for the head or legs. These are the best areas to hit to immobilize the threat. Fight back and don't let it get a hold on you. If you find a mimic that hasn't discovered you yet, stay out of sight. Call the authorities and alert them of your location. Stay where you are to avoid startling the mimic.
Yeah, this is different. You guys are correct. Compared to the previous advice, this is vastly different. This is suggesting that there can be a fight after all. You don't have to sit there with a baseball bat you're not using, waiting to die. So now we have to ask ourselves, why is there such a difference here in information?
If the mimic gives chase, run. Try to get somewhere out of sight and hide. Do not leave the area. Officials will need to locate you to help. Stay low and stay quiet. With the information you have learned, use it well and stay safe.
Seems like that first video was suspiciously pro-mimic. It was, wasn't it? While there was information filled about the dangers of all of these creatures, it more or less did kind of give the idea of just accept that you're screwed and let it take you. This one is far more on the side of the human being. This segment of Vita Carnis is, as I was told by viewers, the weakest by the creator, Darian's own admission. It's live action, which did excite me, but I have to edit this one for pure bare-bone segments, and I'm going to leave my commentary as to why I've cut it up to run at clipping speed.
Got it.
Live action, let's go!
Let's see. Yep, it's working.
Hey, can we get a move on?
One sec. Yeah. Okay. Hello.
I thought you only had 30 minutes of tape on that.
I know, but just gotta see how it works. Like,
Yeah, well,
I never got to use one of these. Too bad. You were the only person who could film with me, so you're gonna have to put up with it.
Fine.
Screw you. Screw you.
Screw you.
It's still way too dark. One sec. There we go. Hello.
Cold.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. You got some light now. Oh, look at that over there. You can't see anything unless I like point directly over there. Like, nope, can't see nothing.
Are you sure we should be out this late?
Fine. I'll cook you stuff when we get home. Don't worry.
I'm hungry.
Too bad. Right, but it still turns off and on randomly for some reason. Like, it's the best thing I could get my hands on, though. Turning on and off, but it's the only thing that they would give me. It works, though. I just gotta watch.
This is gnarly.
It's not my fault this guy lives in a fucking dump. We're almost there. We just gotta get through the woods. You see it, though? Hopefully I show up on camera, though. Hopefully there are lights out there. Like, people still live there, right? Can't be that bad.
Pretty dark for me.
But it was just one guy. I don't know why. Like, why would they get rid of everything?
Yeah, Luke, it's a good catch there. They are giving an explanation as to why the camera keeps cutting out. It's not a great camera. It was kind of the only one that they were given in whatever circumstances that they're in, which is good. It's, there are these elements that pop up throughout the series I keep noticing of an intelligence showing up in very wonderfully surprising places when it comes to the writing and logic and drawing conclusions. The analog horror format that we've seen, I am still waiting to see a damn good explanation as to why certain things just really are not up to snuff. There's suspension of disbelief, of course, but the kind of intelligence that we keep observing in moments like these leads me to believe that they have taken care of other elements of it that will satisfy my criticism and my concerns when it comes to the work later on.
I could barely capture the ground in front of me.
So, what are we doing out here exactly?
Well, supposedly they found some guy. Like, it was like a grody scene. Like, it was disgusting. Like, they had to get rid of the trailer he was in, and then, like, they didn't let anyone nearby, and it was like this big conspiracy. So, I'm filming that. Hopefully, I get a good mark for it. There we go, we're getting close. See, we're right here. You go ahead. You can't see a thing.
Alright, ideally, when you're doing something like this, you want to leave in just the tiniest bit of fat for flavoring, and you want to make cuts wherever you can in all the rest of it. That was too long a sequence of just getting started, walking along, showing that it's dark. Yes, we get the idea that it's dark. We get the idea that it's a halted camera. Establish what you need to establish. Give it just a little touch of reality. That whole sequence of her saying that she's hungry and we can go get lunch after this. We didn't need that. We could have ditched that. Once we understood that we're heading to a trailer where maybe some guy died and it's a wreck. Okay, jump to the trailer. That's it. Just jump to the trailer. Establish what you need to establish. Give us a little bit of fat for flavoring. Then move the story along.
Where am I even going?
Just up here. There should be a path. Right there. Yeah, right here.
Okay.
See, I found the path. We're all good.
Okay, now see that entire last sequence? Now that we have this sequence that is still on the way there, I would have removed that entire last sequence. The one that we just saw, I would have cut that one straight out. I would have put us here on the path instead. And this one needs to immediately lead to whatever it is that we need to see next. If there's a trailer, get us to the trailer. If there is a mimic out in the woods, get us to the mimic. You know what, you're right about that, Eclipse the Dom, and I forgot about that point. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Also, in story, it only has 30 minutes of film. So in story, it doesn't make sense to film this bit. You're right. Why are they wasting footage if they've only got half an hour of tape? Don't do that. This is a common thing. Creators who start doing live action filming for the first time can have a tendency where they start to keep in a lot of stuff because they're in love with everything that they filmed. They loved the act of filming. They love to see it back. They let the whole thing play. They have not yet cultivated the senses of being an editor and making the proper cuts.
Yo, look at this. I didn't see this on my way over here last time. It's cool. Like, we could get a shot of this in, like, atmosphere, you know?
It just looks like tetanus to me.
Hold till... One sec, let me get a good lighting on that. There we go. Yeah, look at that. That's cool. Hey, look, there's, like, old stuff here as well. Anyways...
Yeah, admittedly cool. Good opportunity for filming. Good selection there. If we could have a little bit more advancement to plots along with our atmosphere establishment, that would be nice.
We're on the flat part now. Yeah, we're close. Trailer should be right up ahead.
Hey, welcome, Slendy.
This is where everyone...
You know what? We gotta make this a little bit more interesting, alright? We're gonna make this a little bit more interesting. I'm gonna walk with them. I'm gonna keep on walking with them for as long as it takes to walk on up to the trailer. Alright? Here we go.
One was. There's no one here now, though. Not a single building in sight. Except, like, way over there. But... there's no one here. It's the strangest thing. This is the spot. Right here. Yeah. This thing. Okay.
Okay, can you show me?
So you take the camera and the light. Point at me, but don't point at my eyes, please. Make sure. How do I look? Like a barf bag. Alright, give me a second. And let me do a little read.
Do I look good on cam too? How am I? Am I in a good position? Okay. A little to the right? Alright, hold on. How's this? Am I good? Okay, cool. You know, he's got the thing to read. I don't wanna take up anything.
Okay. In the year 1980, teenage boy was coming home from the trailer one late night. Although, when he arrived at home, he found a grisly scene. Detail Barrar, his father that he came home to, was found dead. The grisly scene lies before him. Police were called. They came to investigate. Strange thing though, they immediately closed off everything. No one was allowed near, but only a few witnesses saw what truly happened there. For some reason, the police were acting very weird, trying to keep everyone away and telling little information. And when the information was released to the public, they say it was a suicide. Also,
Okay, listen. Before you launch into multiple sentences at a time, you have to take a deep breath down into your diaphragm. Lock it in place like you just filled up a gas tank. So now you have plenty of air, you have plenty of oxygen in order to do this, and you need to project. You need to think with your throat, alright? While you're holding in the air in your diaphragm so you can keep on going and make sure that you get the words out. This will give you enough time to deliver sentences in proper fashion without running out of air and needing to really stop for breath so that you can time it as well as you can and still be heard. I mean, I don't want to really like impose on what you're doing here. I see that you maybe could use a hand. I've done this for a living myself, so I'm a bit of a voice director, I'll admit. I'm on some projects.
Although, the trailer and most people living nearby moved away pretty much immediately. Police say it was a suicide, but the witnesses that did catch an eye of what happened say the scene was much too grisly to be that. But police haven't come out about anything yet. So that's why I'm here to answer what truly happened. And that's it for now.
You said grizzly way too much.
What?
You said grizzly way too much.
Too much?
Yeah.
Okay, should I retry?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Pause.
Good call on the subtitles, by the way. Thank you. Okay. Yes, yeah, Synth, I know. I'm literally just playing. I know it's supposed to be amateur as fuck. I'm just playing around. I'm just having some fun here. So, the context here very much seems to be related to the one person that we saw before, whose last name is Barrera, and related to an event that happened in the 80s. Let's go ahead and roll that back, and maybe we can find that footage again later. I think it was in the beginning of the Trimmings video, for Trimmings as Pets.
Okay. You're 19. Teenage.
Right, so here's a point for you. The audio lowered when this kicked in. It says confidential. The material, okay, where are we? 1541? The material already is confidential, right? The smarter thing would have been to make it clear at the very beginning of this sequence of the video that this is supposed to be confidential recording, and not to throw this up here and then lower the audio. Like, why would you do that? They changed tape at a point. They've been changing tapes a bit here and there. Oh, yeah, you know what? That explains it. Luke says, by the way, the author says this is his least favorite video because he says he rushed it for Halloween. I really believe you on that one, because if you stopped to give any of this more thought before launching into it, it would be far more potent. The first thing that jumps out at you is the understanding that nothing of what he's saying warrants belief in something paranormal, something truly out of the norm. There was an incident in a trailer where a body was found. The cops want to keep everybody away and not talk to reporters. No shit. That's called standard procedure. That's the usual. That's not abnormal. We have no clues here that are viable in the little speech that he's giving for investigating this and trying to uncover the truth. D-Mark Dan is correct. There's no point in lowering the volume. If it's confidential, then only people with access should be seeing it and need to know what is being said. Anyone else either wouldn't get the tape at all or would have that part cut out. Yeah. Yes. Grizzly bears. Fucking bears, man. The bears attacking. Yeah. The hypest part of this video so far is literally that one sequence that I've got hovered on the timeline here with the photos. Nothing else about this particular video is impressing me. I've got too much criticism about what's going on here. If it is by word of the creator that it was rushed, Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it. And I understand what it's like to be down to the wire for Halloween. My god, I understand what that's like. But the outcome is the outcome here. That's for sure. Wood crawlers. Ah, shit. What was that from? Was that from Gemini? Because there's some kind of relation that you could really draw between this project and Gemini Home Entertainment. There is quite a decent amount of similarity.
No hard feelings, okay?
Okay.
It's pretty scary out here. I know. I understand. Yeah, because, like, back there was the perfect time for a serial killer to just jump out and grab us, you know?
Cut it out. It's scary enough as is. Chris? 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 Where are you? Chris! Come on! This isn't funny!
Vanished that fast, huh?
Chris! I just want to go home, come on! Fine, I guess I'm going home without you. I'm cold, tired, and hungry. If you want to stay out here and play games, you can.
Harvest their tendril? No, come on. Come on. I understand if you have to be an nonfiction protagonist, being totally out of touch with common sense is part of the package, but come on, you know this character would be yelling for him, trying to get him to come back instead of just going on and on. I don't buy this.
Chris? What are you doing? Chris, this isn't funny. Oh! God!
Hey, we got another piece. The critters led the prince out of the cave up to the top of the hill. The something had laid buried under and showed them the forest. This is our home, full of wonder and beauty. Although the forest struggles to provide for all of us, critters, and we are facing disaster. Can you help us? Right. So about this sequence, where does it start? Where does it start? Let's see. Okay. Now we're here. All right. So, see, let me try and go through my thought process here. I was happy to see mimic activity. I was happy to see the monster, you know? Cool. Good. Glad to get a visual on them. But the reveal is, I mean, I can see the entire back half that is clothed, and it's just so static and so costume that you can't deny it. I was glad to see the approach that they were taking here, but there's too much that appears to be seen in such a light that it does not work in the same way that the other appearances have worked. You know what did work, though? This entire sequence. This works. It's so fast, and the darkness is so right that you're selling it here. The whole visual there. Good. Yes, you got it. Nice. But then we get way too much into this, where now we're able to stop and study what we're seeing. And then here comes the big puppet head right above it. And again, audio control, please. Please. So Luke says, yeah, like I said, the author said this was really rushed, and the mimic suit also suffers from this video being rushed. He does say that it looks way too silly and not scary enough, but he wanted the video to be out by Halloween and says that in retrospect he would have waited and fleshed it out better. Yeah. Halloween is always awesome for a drop. You know what else is awesome? Delivering in the first few days of November something that is potent and keeps Halloween going. Because truthfully, when you're our crowd, Halloween isn't really over until Thanksgiving. The first part of November is Halloween part 2, baby. It's just what it is. Especially because we're in the full throes of autumn for that whole period, you know? Once it's Thanksgiving, yeah, we change gears over to kind of the Christmassy atmosphere. Yeah, I mean, if you can't land on Halloween, it's not a huge problem. Don't hold yourself to that if it means that what you're going to offer is less than you would have been able to if you gave it a few more days. Honestly. Still a solid attempt. I still see everything that they were trying with this. And it's good to know that the creator has that perspective looking back of, okay, you know what? Could have done better. Shouldn't have rushed it. Ran out of time. Result was not solid. Mystic the Mannequin says UK doesn't have Thanksgiving. November is the nightmare before Christmas. There you go. See? It's felt other places too. November is more October. It just fermented a little. Okay, species anomalies next. I'm not ready for this one. Oh boy, you could mean that in two different ways. And I appreciate everybody hanging out tonight for this. I hope you are having a delightful time. I know that we've got quite a bit of a crowd over here from Nightmind who has not experienced a live stream before. I love that you're over here giving this a shot and watching Vita Carnis with us. Thank you so much. You guys rock. And I'm glad that for those of you who have wanted to catch a stream but couldn't before, that you have been able to catch a stream tonight. Audio warning, turn your volumes down. Motherfucker. Species anomaly reports. Let's see. Well, if it's been warned, it's been warned. So, I guess this one is going to be different. And I'm not even jumping in this time because this is disturbing to some viewers. I'm doing it because it's better all summarized. The point of the video is that the harvesters are moving towards an island in Canada, which shouldn't be happening. Harvesters don't move. That information is delivered while conveying the horror and agony of a child crying and wailing while being killed by a harvester, which brought its mother running, who also died screaming, and it's the story of a family destroyed by a harvester seen in a news clip during the harvester segment of the documentary. There are two issues with this video. The first is logical and spelled out by the documentary itself.
On each side of the branch, those particular spines have a vein that feed into them, that pump two types of venom. On one side, the spines can inject a neurotoxin, which will attack the nervous system of whomever it is injected into, causing sudden paralysis. The other side can inject an anticoagulant, which when injected, prevents blood cells from clotting.
A neurotoxin that causes paralysis. So in all likelihood, nothing that falls victim to a harvester should die screaming, right? You'd be paralyzed, quickly bleed out, and die. If a paralytic neurotoxin prevents speech, the agonizing death wails in the video contradict the lore entirely. And even if they didn't, for what purpose? To make us squeamish? To have a flashy art house depiction of demise for a bit? All on a side story that we'd forgotten about and are now going out of our way to experience in some fashion? It doesn't serve the narrative in any form. even if it is effective. The only bit we needed is that harvesters are moving. I'm not into how much in the blurring we really can't manage to read a good chunk of these things. And use the child to lure the mom? Possibly. Which would then confirm, yeah. You know what, I'm gonna weigh in with you on that one, Tay-Tay, because of all the information earlier. Because they're theorizing about how the harvesters work, that they could use smaller prey to lure bigger prey. You think they show versions without the blur later? It would be the smart thing. Maybe. Just to let us understand what the hell is happening. Something about power healing their home. The prince using his magic to help the critters. Not just this series, but horror series in general do this way too much. Yeah, I mean, if we're supposed to be reading it, let's get back to this. Oh, the flavor enhancer.
Flavor. The most crucial component to enjoying a good meal. The way food tastes is what makes eating so pleasurable. But what if you could savor every little detail you could possibly want? That is why we, at Nocturne Co., have made it so that you may enjoy every single bite you take. With our product, the Flavor Enhancer, you can extract every last morsel of taste from your plate. With overwhelming demand for this essential product even since our start earlier this year, we have delivered what you wanted. Now introducing the Flavor Enhancer Deluxe. Now packaged in a large...
You've heard of male enhancement. Now get ready for... I'm sorry, I had to. It was right there.
Larger size and modified recipe, there is now even more savory goodness to go around. Since our debut in mid-1990, the Flavor Enhancer has shown to be a major hit, with our product flying off the shelves. The Flavor Enhancer Deluxe will allow us to satisfy your growing, tasting needs. Now allowing you to add even more enhancer to your dinner, making your food even better to enjoy. The Flavor Enhancer Deluxe, available on shelves now. Nocturne Co. Experience true savor.
Oh. Tenacity XL brings up a cool point. Every video after the initial series species explanations are in the order they were introduced. The Flavor Enhancer slots into the host's slot. It might be the spores. That's clever. Yep, because we have the mimic, we have the harvester, now we can have the host. The next one would be the monolith. There's blocked text by the established 1990.
Nocturne Co.
Is that Morse? Long, 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 space, long, short? No, there's another short in there. That could be Morse, actually. Wait, YouTube shorts of signs for these creatures? That's pretty cool. No, nobody has, it seems, the Morse code breakdown there.
Now. Nocturne Co. Experience true savor.
No, you don't. Oh, okay.
These larger serving sizes make dining...
You think it's just cutting off the Nocturne Co. part of the video? Could be that too, I guess. I'm so used to critics doing sly Morse code things. Someone in the previous video comments wrote down the storybook pages at that point. Okay. Alright, we might go take a look at that. Overall, we understand the idea is the prince needed healing sleep. He went away to a far-off land where he could have himself restored in a magical place. He experienced magic. The surrounding area had these critters who were starving, but they helped restore him by giving him parts of their food. When he woke up, they explained the situation. And then he did something to help out.
Even more pleasant, now allowing more generous amounts of enhancer at a time. Flavor Enhancer Deluxe, now available in stores near you. Nutri Co. Experience true save.
Why does it keep doing that?
Make your taste buds pop with the new deluxe size. Make tasting even more awesome.
Spoil your kids with this essential part of every meal. Nutri fruit.
Okay. So yeah, I'm thinking it's the spores. I'm weighing in with you guys, and I'm saying it's the spores. And I don't know why this company is pumping out these spores for hosts, because it seems to be taking that angle of the company is infected by the creatures and is part of the agenda to see the world taken over by them. Pay attention to the logo. You're sponsored by a big host.
Flavor Enhancer Deluxe. Required for all meals, no matter how small it seems, just a little more. It is crucial to everyday eating.
You need the flavor enhancer to enjoy eating. You need the flavor.
The logo. You said to take a look at the logo. And yeah, isn't that one of the quick one-frame images during the spore host segment? Because that kind of looks reminiscent. Yeah. Yep. Do you think they laid it on a little thick there? The meat snake video had the symbol on the flavor enhancer. I remember something related to the meat snake like that. But then I remembered more so the host. It's also the chemical symbol for fire. I don't know if that's relevant here. Not sure. The prince gathered... there it is. The prince gathered what he could and then set sail onward. Once the prince returns home, they will come back to the island and return to the critters. It's a dark deal. Does the prince represent an organization who made a dark deal? The CEO? That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, the symbol on the flag. Like, why? It's their flag. It's their flag. So, the monoliths are also on a fictional island. I'm feeling that's what's being insinuated here. Is that the prince represents whatever human group first got involved with these creatures and is putting out the flavor enhancer. There's something about it that's trying to relate it that way. Tape. Uncover documents. Let's see. I love this from Natch Evil. When I worked in the government, we used to start all our classified videos with ants too. Yeah, see, it's great to have somebody here to verify that all along the analog horror crowd was getting it completely correct. I'm the fool. I'm the fool here. All along, it's been like this internally the whole time. Oh yeah, that. Yup, it's the government again. It's the government again, guys. Guess what? It's another case, another analog horror project where the government is evil. Oh no. Yay! Mark that one off on the bingo sheet too. Carcass. What a lovely acronym. Conflicts with NATO. Or something. NAT something. The Private Organization of Containment and Research Consult Association Society. You reached so hard for that. You reached so hard, you pulled something. The Containment and Research Consult Association Society. You can pick one, not three. That's fucking greedy just to get your carcass acronym. And it is a carcass because that's dead on arrival. It's been experiencing backlash from government agencies about cooperation and violation of newly introduced policies of blah blah blah. You guys really wanted to spell carcass somehow. Message to carcass. That was it. That was the end of the video. End of the video. Bad acronym. Government is evil plot. Okay. Yep. Alright. Rolling on. Message to carcass. Get a better acronym, bro. Lucha Libra says, I think what always amuses me about watching Nick's coverage about these series is how I'll come across them via YouTubers going ape for them. And he comes in with the vibes of an unimpressed teacher, rolling up their sleeves going, okay, kid, let's talk about how you can do better. Which I frankly, I do. And I always will. Like, it occurred to me over the break that we took. I stepped away to the bathroom, and I'm thinking about this project. And something occurs to me as a running pattern of my coverage on Nightmind and what I choose for main projects versus, say, if I were to cover this and a lot of other things that I've covered live to mainline videos. When I choose things for Nightmind to script and put under the Nightmind full broadcast and critical analysis lens, the consistent pattern in the topics that I choose with a few exceptions, is that I always choose projects that either are consistent in their quality, with bumps of going to higher levels and then keeping their new knowledge and understanding of craft, or ones that are on a direct uphill climb when it comes to quality and achieving amazing things. There is a consistency to them, whereas with a lot of what we've covered live, these projects, their only form of consistency is an inability to exercise understanding enough of craft and story and their own strengths to have a solid baseline and foundation. And they have moments of high spiking, call everybody brilliance, and then it comes right back down. Does that make sense? Like with all of you who have been here, like months and months of you who have been here and seen us cover project after project after project. Acidic Vagabond says, objection, you've covered Greylock and Midwest Angelica live. There are exceptions, just like there are exceptions to the rule of how things work on Nightmind, because I've covered things where all of a sudden it just fell down a flight of stairs. It just kept banging its head all the way down to the landing like it didn't catch the banister. Ping Squirrel says, it's like they worked that scene. That one scene is their baby, and they worked everything to get to that scene, but everything needs that care, not your one baby. Thank you. And that's what I thought while I was in the bathroom, is the issue is that there are these high-flying, amazing moments, but do a lot of these creators that others rant and rave over, that we then visit live, do they have these moments of sitting down and reflecting on why something worked so well, or do they just take that high of the victory and the confirmation that they have talent and they have skill and people like what they're doing, and then immediately roll that confidence into whatever they're going to make next without questioning why it worked last time? I can see that being the case. It's something that a lack of self-reflection, yes, a lack of self-reflection. I think that a lot of what's going on out there when it comes to coverage and celebration is that they're taking the spikes in these projects and they're hooting and hollering over them and they're making it a big thing. And it's like, you need better than just certain sections in your project to really hit. Like a game of football where you had a few amazing plays where you managed to run it up the field, and then the rest of your performance was getting clobbered, does not make a good football team. You need better than the highlight reel. Yeah, you need better than the highlight reel.
In the distant horizon, the group of monoliths stand vacant. Although closed off to outsiders, their stance can be observed well outside the perimeter. It is known to have hundreds of thousands of fibers that weave themselves deep underground, all connected in a grand mycelial network.
You might be confused as to why you received this package. This was left to you because we share a common goal. I'm aware that you studied Carnis and researched their properties. I'm also aware that you received backlash for doing so. Something isn't as it seems, and you know this too. Unexplained phenomena, countless casualties, missing persons, fatalities, and yet no proper action, and a notable silence about these affairs. People are afraid and confused. Why is nothing being done? Because they don't want us to know. We've been kept in the dark, while those above us slither and miss the blind. They have slowly been numbing our minds to their schemes. But they've made one crucial error. Trails, crumbs, traces of information. I've collected these pieces and found their loose ends. This is why I've left this message to you. The documents included with the statement is all the information that I have gathered. Every continuity, every cover, every clue that I could find, information I've provided to you, I hope you can put a stop to all the scandals. I just hope it isn't too late.
Okay, so the triangle and the circle is the giant orb, the singularity, right? It's the singularity. There's a cult that worships this thing. The cult has infiltrated the government. They have allowed all of this stuff to spread. They have produced a flavor enhancer to achieve their ends. And they have duped the people into accepting that this is a fact of life and enjoying the flavor enhancer in order to achieve their ultimate goal. And it's all spoken about in vague terms by the guy in the know with the classic I have not written this kind of material before approach to it in the writing, which is obvious. We'll finish this video before I take a pause.
I hope you can put a stop to all the scandals. I just hope it isn't too late.
The monoliths are truly an astonishing sight to behold.
Okay, so I'm gonna pass this off to you guys, alright? Hold on. Wow, this is like the most appropriate background ever right now. Okay, guys, how do we feel about this? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of sentiment here. It's not hitting. Tenacity XL, thanks for the 100 bits, saying it does feel like the singularity doesn't fit with the theme of the meat creatures, and is kind of there to fill a niche of where it came from. Like, despite the quality of a lot of the assets and puppets and stuff, it does feel like it stands out a bit much. Will9718EF says, it's very baby's first conspiracy. Yeah, I am gonna agree with that one and endorse that particular comment. The talk at this point went on for a bit, and it's much better to condense my points. The entry message reveals we've been watching media from someone trying to track everything going on with the Vita Carnis species and those involved in its spread. If we can overlook the weaknesses of the documentary opener and accept the presentation as a supposed government-affiliated warning tape, then the document interruptions would come from the person sending Carcass a message in this video. Except we see this on the red string conspiracy board. Teenagers arrested for releasing documentary. A group of students released a nature documentary about the Carnis species, which was seized by authorities. The group, called the National Living Meat Research, had included various amounts of sensitive material and defamation. Officials have arrested some of the suspects, while other outside sources are still at large. The students claim that they were simply working on the project for fun and didn't know about the extra material. So why was there an FBI warning at the head of it? Because it's been confiscated and we're probably watching it from the perspective of this character here, who picked it up, and that also explains the censorship. What else does this explain for us? It's why the documentary's presentation is amateur hour. It's a leak, intended as a leak by a group of kids who could barely handle video work. It explains the poor production quality, the inclusion of photos from a bunch of people online, and sudden inclusion of documents. It's a method of rollout for information they wanted known, be it public or confidential. I wanted justification for why the presentation was so poor, and we got justification. Accepted. Thank you. The composition of elements stacks up. There are moments like the lingering shot on the mimic and some of these spooky flashy pieces that don't add up very well with this, but overall, you explained it. The Warpley effect still seems like a totally unnecessary inclusion and a poor attempt to make it appear as a VHS tape, and I'm not sure those students would have done that, but fine. I can tell from the online username credits attached to photos that this isn't truly retroactive writing just to cover lack of experience in video crafting. Though if the setting places this student documentary in the 90s, produced on VHS tapes, there's a conversation we still need to have in a moment. As for the document inclusions, that's where we run into a problem outside the documentary. We can explain the pieces on the conspiracy board being literally what's included in the documentary, because the civilian investigator could have had those printed out for himself somehow. There's no justification for why the presentation, spelling, and overall writing on all of those are as poor as the teenager's documentary. And we're absolutely going to have a conversation about that in line with what I alluded to just a moment ago, but we can justify the investigator having these. Now you've got to explain why shots from the conspiracy board show up in videos that aren't the student documentary, like the end of Cook at Home Kitchen, and why the pages of the fairy tale metaphor are included in all of them. Because there's only one person who can be doing that, right? This investigator character. If not him, then he's hunting all these tapes with these fairy tale pages. We know he has the tapes for everything we've seen from this shot, which includes TV elements related to the flavor enhancer. So if it isn't him, it was someone else. Then we come to the videos we've seen all being tapes he has, and you have to ask yourself how a video like Species Anomaly Report, the Harvester Family Kill, actually exists in the form we see it. Who makes a tape like that? The investigator? Were they feeling particularly macabre that week? Which brings me to the conversation at hand. You can use the made by teenagers justification exactly once, and you did it at the very start. The analog horror format has been attractive to a lot of creators because you can just present everything through desktop. A lot introduce concepts that include government organizations or companies or professional groups. And even if media back then didn't look as good or pull as many tricks as it does now, all the companies making those VHS tapes or TV commercials or TV shows still had some money and professionalism that went in. We do have the means to portray a lot of that right from the desktop now, and largely for free or very low cost. And it was all still better than clearly digital images popping in and out under a warping filter. In the moments that something looks low budget, no budget, or public access, you've got to make it clear. For everything that comes after the documentary made by teenagers, the same quality bar and lack of skill persisted without justification, no matter what the video was supposed to be. And in moments we have something like a government info tape regarding mimic defense or a national product ad on TV, you cannot justify using the same approach you did when it was just a bunch of students. Cook at Home Kitchen, you can get away with it being a public access piece. Even the Trimming Pet Guide could fly under that reasoning. But the Flavor Enhancer commercial, the largest meat snake documentary, and any instances of government work all needed to be better than the same default approach that went into a juvenile documentary. If I'm attempting to portray a big professional organization making tapes, TV shows, or commercials, I need to know I can sell it well enough with the means that I have and my limitations and put the effort into the best and most convincing work I can make. That means going above the effort I put into something that was meant to be entry level. But every step of the way, we must observe that we work within the frame of limitations as creators. This is known, this is understood, this is encouraged. There is a ceiling to what you can portray and still have the audience suspend their disbelief. The height of that ceiling depends on your skill level, resources, and time. If you attempt to portray something you don't have the means for or the way to level up your skills yet to make it believable, you're pushing beyond the frame of limitations and the outcome will be weak. Creators must observe the ways they can portray elements of their story while working in limitations and still deliver great results. Your limitations are meant to make you greater, to pull off the incredible using very little, to overcome the challenge. That is one of the greatest victories of unfiction. Look at what we accomplish without studios, investors, or entire teams. Limitations force you to be more creative and more impressive. And when there's more that you can be doing that is quite obvious even in limitations, audiences see it. And when you're going a higher concept and not stepping up to the skill needs, the entire stage begins to shake. Ignoring what you could do for authenticity in all this media as actual VHS tapes of content from the 90s is an offense to yourself and your greatest moments of skill. These awesome illustrations and renders, which deserve an altogether better framework around them. If you're this good at what you do at your best and most dedicated, you need to bring that dedication to the entire approach. The areas you do not step up for disrespect the areas you excel in. Elevate your skill set to serve the work in its entirety. I take issue with the production of Vita Carnis for most of its standing videos for this reason, and I will not give it a pass. With the exception of the latest 2 entries, all the calls to action after the documentary video to make this more authentic, potent, and informed by actual analog media within limitations were left behind, and it was as simple as learning how to more effectively produce the look of a VHS tape or TV ad. Now, suppose you somehow can't do a bit of learning as a creator to increase your skill set for some reason, or you're in danger of reaching beyond the limitations and breaking suspension of disbelief. Maybe you're looking at a case of expansion rather than unfolding or have already lost your way. what do you do? Identify your strengths and weaknesses and go back to your strengths. Study what really worked, ask why it worked, and bring things back to that. Go home again. Get the car back on the road and drive the story somewhere that makes sense instead of an off-road adventure. Improve your weaknesses to be truly competent. Create within limitations until you gain opportunities for greater. Then take those opportunities. And stick to the plot you made. Don't expand it getting hype on huge concepts if you started the story in a suburban neighborhood. Finish that story all the way up to a place that makes sense.
Three ground teams are tasked with infiltrating a previously abandoned mall titled Facility 0, which is located in the restricted zone based on our info. The mission will take place in 3 stages: infiltration, encirclement, and ambush.
I'm actually feeling good about this.
Primary objective is to capture the facility and seize the items of interest for extraction. Numerous armed guards are located within the facility. Avoid detection and keep up your guard.
Alpha team, in position. Beta team, in position. Gamma team, in position.
Copy. Beginning phase 1.
Eyes on the point. Clearing pathway now. Pathway cleared. Give us the green light.
Copy. Green light is a go. Begin phase 2 in advance.
Alpha team, copy. Beginning advance. All right, we're heading out. Move, move, move! Lights off. Come on. Move.
Oh, they're among the monoliths.
Keep your distance. Single file. Halt! In position, awaiting green light.
Yeah, it seems the harvesters have been migrating toward the monoliths, which makes sense. Shopping center.
Eyes are secure. Turning blind. Lights green.
Copy. Green light is a go. Begin phase 2 in advance.
Experiencing mechanical interference. Should we resume? Copy. Phase 3 is still a go. Preparing for breach.
Breach in 3, 2, 1. Breach.
Get down! Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Get down! Get down! Put down your weapon! Get down! Put down your weapon! Put your hands up! Get down! I said get down!
Yeah, a circle of 7 singularities. I'm still stuck on what somebody else said earlier. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was. It was so long ago. I don't hate it, but we really have left the reservation. And it's in a way that I don't really feel so much anymore. And it is, again, it's the same problem that I saw in hiding in my home, and that Fred and I witnessed in Greylock, which is, what was the story we were telling again? What was the perspective that we had? Like, we've really gone up and out and out and out, like outer rings of where we were in a perspective, and it just keeps making me think expansion. It's not so much unfolding, it's expanding. Like, wasn't this where we started was a lot of scary ass stuff, right, happening in the world, and mysterious meat creatures. Now we're in the position of a government or special force team attacking a facility to eliminate cult members worshipping floating orbs that are at the heart of this world change. And I think back to that one glorious moment of us seeing the Mimic and how much ass that kicked. And I'm thinking, where did that go? Because right now, this is more Midwest Angelica's territory. And Midwest Angelica felt like unfolding. The perspective there was always the bigger picture view, not so much the personal experience view, you know? It's not that this video is unimpressive. It's just that the genre has changed. Alright, so now let's see with Season 2 teaser. We don't need that, we just need what came out. Here we go. Here's the last thing, here's the new thing. As Tay-Tay says, the next one is the one I voiced the newscaster in. Might have to leave partway through, but glad I could catch at least the beginning. This has been great. Thank you, Tay-Tay. Alright, let's get into it.
Today something has happened within the restricted zone, where a large group of cultists have been apprehended. Several teams of military personnel have arrested some high-ranking cultists and have unmasked their identities to the public. Shockingly, several of these members are well-renowned politicians and high-ranking members of multiple governments across the globe.
Many documents have been released providing sufficient proof of the atrocities that were being committed. Some of these crimes include murder, kidnapping, torture, ritual sacrifice, and the list goes on.
The members are found guilty of deliberately providing false information to the public in an attempt to cause harm.
The New Trier Company has been found to have very significant ties with cultist activities and has been shut down. All New Trier products have been deemed hazardous for consumption.
Cultivation farms are facing pressure to shut down. Public unrest grows as the New Trier cult case brings more crimes that were hidden away to light.
Look at that. There it is. That's Vita Carnis at its fucking best. That's the shit. Why didn't we get more of that? There it is. And hey, congratulations to KMS, Angelina, Nicole too. Right off the bat, with both of you, I can't tell who's who in here from each other because this is my first time hearing your voices. What I can tell you both for notes, because I am a voice director myself, I've done voice acting, I'm doing voice acting. I can hear that you are definitely trying to get through the newscaster pitch, tone, and pacing. Okay, your cultivation farms are facing pressure to shut down, and then the last quiet one in the sequence. Okay. Yeah, no, you got the tone. Yeah, that's the newscaster tone. You're the one about new trier. Okay. You also understand the newscaster tone there. Yep, I can hear it. But yeah, no, props to you both. Legitimately, just getting in whatever spaces that you can to develop a body of work is the way to get going. Working in a nonfiction project can get you jobs. I would know, so keep going.
Cultivation farms are facing pressure to shut down. Public unrest grows as the new Trier cult case brings more crimes that were hidden away to light.
The people are outraged by how little was actually being done. They demand that something be done to handle the Carnis species.
Riots appear in the streets as protests begin to turn. Our leaders were plotting against us. Who do we trust? What happens now?
Test chamber 1 now in use.
Welcome to Magister's Wonder Show. I am the Magister, and get ready to explore all of the world's wonders. Today, we are learning about the circle of...
A bit of a tonal whiplash tonight. Yeah, it's a bit of a tonal whiplash.
Test report number 4. We still know very little about the nature of the entities. There are 7 singularities in total. Each singularity is roughly 1 meter in diameter. They are made of an unknown material, although it looks and feels very similar to glass. We are unable to sample it in fear of causing potential damage. The material is very dark in color, but has red shimmers of light swirling inside. There are some hints of other colors present, but is mostly dominated by the red. Each entity hovers above the ground in a stationary position, although they can be moved with relative ease. Our equipment can detect some subtle pulses of energy in rhythmic but random patterns. We don't know what they are. We don't know if it is breathing or communicating. We don't even truly know if they are even organic. This is nothing new, just confirming what we already know. Our first experiments didn't give any interesting leads. The most we got was some interference with electronics, especially when there is more than one kept close together. But the experiment we conducted showed extremely significant results. The experiment played out like this. In test chamber 1, a live cow was released into the chamber with V1 for an extended period. They were left together for 24 hours. The test showed minimal results from the entity, and it
just got this cow roaming around inside the test chamber. Just got this cow moving at 10 frames a second.
Increase in stress from the cow. Next, the body of a cow was put into the chamber with V1 for 24 hours. The results were extraordinary. Five hours after the whole body had been ingested, concentrations of Kroll rapidly grew from several points from within the chamber. What this could mean, it rewrites everything we knew about the Vita Carnis species.
Allow the Kroll to grow out here.
Whit says, as an aside, I really wish there were more immersion in analog horror. This doesn't feel like these tapes are being uploaded by anyone in particular trying to show off how fucked up this all is. It doesn't feel like unfiction at all. It is unfiction, it's so disjointed in terms of an actual consistent point of view that it keeps on floating to different segments of whatever it feels it wants to do to tell the story. It's just expanding. The camera, the human camera, keeps on moving on us. And it didn't start in that place. Frankly, I don't even think I know if they had an idea of where they were starting from perspective. And like, what if we were watching somebody who was a particular person, right, who then had their explanation of who they were and why they were operating in the message, then where the hell are we now and where are they? Where are they? I don't know. Why are we here now? Why are we doing this? Where did that person go?
First, a young larva hatches from within its egg. It will roam around and find food to help it grow and grow. Once they are big enough, they transform into a pupa, and after some more time, they transform into an adult beetle. The adult beetle will go out into the world in search of...
Audio log. Progress report for crawl samples. Cultivation has been successful. So far, we grew them with 3 specific environmental factors. 1 is our control group, 2 with access to additional nutrition sources, and 3 with exposure to radio signals. Group 1 grew on par with standard crawl samples. No distinct abnormalities.
And this is where it's working again. Like, dude, as soon as I saw this, I just immediately thought, I'm back in. Just like that, I'm back in. Why couldn't it have been more of this all along? You know what? We could have ended up in the science angle even. Especially because of how we started. This entire segment happening right now, I feel like that could have worked.
2 with access to additional nutrition sources, and 3 with exposure to radio signals. Group 1 grew on par with standard crawl samples. No distinct abnormalities. Group 2 grew at a faster pace than the control group, as expected. No distinct abnormalities. Group 3 grew against its normal pattern, weaving its way toward the radio. Once the device was claimed, it switched to usual growth patterns. Again, no distinct abnormalities. In conclusion, the samples that were grown in V1's test chamber don't seem to differ from others grown from other sources.
And there's that intelligent factor again of bringing up the idea of the radio without explicitly saying they love the radio frequencies. It's Leah says, I think this whole plot could have worked better if it was from the point of view of someone trying to learn about all the Vita Carnis creatures and managing to get their hands on confidential tapes with maybe an insider helping. Yeah, that would have really helped it.
Still, we will continue with more factors in further groups, just in case. There have been some developments in the propagation group. V1 samples have seemingly been able to produce nodules at a slightly quicker rate than wild samples. Control groups show that V1 samples begin node development a few days faster. More time will be needed to say for sure. As for the nodes themselves, there aren't any distinct abnormalities. We've successfully hatched a dozen Carnish juveniles, several trimmings, 2 meat snakes, and even 1 mimic. We will be sending them to the enclosures after everyone's reports get sent out. End log.
And then is ground into a fine mince and is now ready for the garden.
Audio log. Progress report for trimming colony. Significant progress in learning the social patterns of a group of trimmings we have been keeping together. A new batch of juveniles were added to the main colony at the beginning of the new progress report. They were accepted into the community immediately. No conflict or rejection observed. They did provide the circumstances to document more of their interactions. Trimmings communicate through a series of vocal cues. Colony members meeting the new batch with squeaks and squeals. They also are not afraid to show us when they are upset. Trimmings also use some physical displays as well. For example, trimmings do a chewing or chatter motion with their mouths when they are happy or interested in something. The experiment that we performed was to explore the extent of their communication skills. The test went like this. We took one of the trimmings and had them in place in a modified enclosure. A speaker would play 2 separate audio cues. A positive cue would play, followed by a treat, and a negative cue, followed by a small spray of cold water. We did several rounds of both audio cues to condition the trimming's response.
Aww. I actually feel bad for it. Wow.
After the test, the trimming was released back to its colony. And after a few hours, we tested how much the trimmings communicated. Another speaker was placed near the colony's enclosure, where we played the same audio cues. It is incredible to see how layered their social interactions can be. Although, we tried something a bit bizarre. We found out that a wild colony had settled around the facility recently. It was strange what we did. It was a long shot. We set up a radio device near the wild colony and near ours. We linked both devices up and played the cues.
There's many dangers out there.
That was stellar. Yup. From the beginning of this segment, bringing it back to the study of the crawl, all the way through all of that behavior learning with the trimmings, that was stellar. You brought us back to the point. Very good. You played to your strengths. You clearly put a little bit of money into this too. And it's money into your strengths. It's money into the elements of the project that have been working all along a line of thinking and narrative and exploration. Awesome. Good. Very good.
There in the world, there are many predators that would love to have beetles for a snack. And unfortunately, not all beetles make it. Yes, it is sad, but that's how the circle of life works. But look, one of the beetles has laid eggs. And once the beetle's eggs hatch, the beautiful cycle starts again. And life continues on.
Yep. That's what I think, Will. I think that they keep being attracted to the radio signals because they are actually somehow using the radio signals. There is mass communication occurring with these creatures. This project can find its way back. It needs more of this. Keep us in this line. Like, just the rest of this stuff from the outside world, there are portions of it I kind of care for, and there are portions of it I really don't. You can make little excursions on the side, and bits of expansion work if your main line is solid. Everything we just witnessed here, with the trimmings, with the experiments, that's what works. Dire Beast Rex says, what do you think about signing your work / using bumpers that break kayfabe? My goal for my own project is to go 1000% kayfabe unbroken. Is that no longer the done thing or doable these days? You can do it. You'd be somebody who's doing the traditional thing. And it's not horrible. Myself and many others in the unfiction space have accepted it's kind of been a high time for creators to own their work, if that is their choice. There is no true harm in it. There is a magic that is lost. I will say that. There's a mystique about it that goes away if you plaster your name as author all over the thing. So if you do it in the sense of true kayfabe and immersion, fuck yeah. You're going to have a cool extra layer to it that really harkens back in the day and can help amp things up. Kayfabe is staying in character. Yeah, it's literally just, you're keeping the immersion of the thing. Emerald Glow says the cult plot essentially just boiled down to, we need a way to explain the organization getting all the singularities, but also then explain why the cult have the singularities. I'm not even a fan of the singularities. I feel like it's one of those power creep things. You know, the top of the pyramid is just, it's so mighty, you know, where it doesn't feel super earned. I mean, I guess I would have liked a discovery of that down the line past the monoliths. I would have stopped at the monoliths and then had hints that the monoliths are for something, and then later on figured out what the hell that something is. And it turns out to be orb. And that too, Lord Cryptid. A singularity usually means a convergence point of one. It's singular. Things have become one single thing. To have 7 is kind of like, you guys kind of lost the whole point of a singularity, didn't ya? Superior Skill says, I'm assuming the singularity is meant to make this a true circle of life. That it's not a linear evolution of the crawl coming first. It's a whole circle of the singularities creating the crawl, which then makes the other creatures. Yeah. From what we saw here, that seems to be the angle. Hidden video in the description. What? Will we? Shall we? I guess. Yeah, this was a pain in the ass to read backwards live. 9/22/1994. I think it's time that I take you up on that deal. Things are changing and not for the better. I will do what you ask. I'll start sending them over when I get a chance. B. Light Merlin says, if we go for the storybook, the prince said he would be back with help. Could it be that the other singularities are the help? Could be. And then we have the idea of the storybook that's been littered throughout this. It's a lot of... Analog horror has the same problem that the term ARG used to have, in that it is widely attributed to things that absolutely it should not be attributed to. Because this is not analog horror. This is, again, it's just analog aesthetic. It's trying to present a cool story that it has through the idea of analog tapes, when it didn't need to do that. And now it's just media mixing in all sorts of fashion. It's got the same progression as Mandela Catalog. And you know, when it came to Mandela Catalog, I cheered for that because from the beginning, it wasn't even analog horror. It wasn't. It was media mixing. There was some analog elements, but altogether it wasn't really tied to an analog technology format. And so much of what it tried to do and sell it as tapes or recordings or something was just mixed media in a format that it was not going to actually make sense in. And Alex recognized that, and then went way beyond and just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm just telling the story now, through whatever means truly serve. And bravo to that. I can see that is what is happening here with Vita Carnis. I don't know if it's working as well for it though, because it's been so wobbly when it comes to the perspective for the storytelling, you know? It's getting itself back. Kippy says, I think I don't really understand what actually makes something analog horror. Tried and true analog horror to me. Here it is. Tried and true, genuine analog horror to me is a story that is told explicitly or majorly through analog technology means, with all of the attempts to actually conform to the style, standards, and authenticity of that technology during the time period presented for the story. The best case of actual analog horror is mainly found through Local 58. One of the best cases recently of actually good, you can call it that, analog horror would be the video adaptation of Ted's Caving Journal. Analog horror is a really weird thing. It truly has so little now to do with analog technology. And I sincerely wish it wasn't like that, because it's the old ARG term problem come back in a new form. There's all this stuff that doesn't work under that label at all, but for lack of a better term, the prevailing term will be used. And that hurts analog horror because it's teaching so many people the genuinely incorrect impression of what analog media was like. I really want to ask the viewers who love this subgenre sometimes, have you ever watched the kind of stuff this is telling you it's supposed to be? Do you remember what it was like if you have? You realize this is nothing close to it, right? It's not something evil that analog horror is running around in this fashion. It's just terribly wayward. This is unfiction. It's unconventional storytelling, mixed media, it's odd and online. But analog horror? No, Vita Carnis really isn't. Especially after going the way of others and ditching any pretense of that in favor of Darien telling the story any way they want. Have you guys noticed that's been a pattern with the heavy hitters of analog horror? That eventually they get sick of this format of playing pretend like they've got anything to do with analog technology? It might be something for you to take note of and ask why. Vita Carnis is a mixed bag, especially after that latest episode, which just brought its best elements back with gusto. Seriously commendable work getting things back on track and presenting the sci-fi horror aspect in such great form. That's how you do it. That's the way you put muscle back in while rerouting to the direction that's going to work best. The highs of this project are incredibly obvious to anyone and worth the love and reputation. Illustrations were fantastic, enticingly grotesque, wonderfully imaginative, and the rendering work, be it in 3D or practical effects, sold this concept so well and was always a joy to see. The trimming puppets. Man, I love the trimming puppets. As silly as that video was, I'll disagree with anybody who says that wasn't worth it. Applause for all that work and all the practical elements, even in the times it didn't hit on watching the recording back. And seriously, kudos to you for actually attempting all of that. It takes initiative to do that. Takes guts, and a lot of the time it worked out for you. Subtle writing elements left for us to figure out, like the true nature of the flavor enhancer, the radio-attracting Vita Carnis, the harvester's location habits, and the use of a child to lure a mother from the family who got snapped and drained were great. World build is intriguing and well thought out. I know a lot of the viewers are in it for the world build stuff, and rightly so. This is a cool concept, and its visual presentations and quiet strong points have earned it the reputation and audience it has. As for weaknesses, I can't pull my punches. It's all of what's outside the things I just listed. The literal writing and document mock-ups are very poor, filled with spelling mistakes and grammar issues. No real attempt I can see to resemble materials that inspire them or even proofread. The video editing work has been consistently lower than this project's strengths deserve to be served with. Live action segments have been cute, but outside the mimic attacks and the fun of trimming pets, none of it performs to a base level of competency that awakens the attention span. And it could have been stronger when there are enough free tutorials online to teach better approaches for authenticity and informed production. Audio balancing was atrocious. That's one of the harshest words I've ever used in a critique, ever. I am using it. If you don't have someone on it already or haven't learned how to take care of it for future episodes, fix your audio balancing. You found a hell of a soundbite for that door knock in the Mimic documentary slice. Very cool, very good. But too often, the audio was enough to make me want to just mute the video. I have no idea why the fairy tale metaphor exists in the story. It's an unnecessary inclusion by all appearances so far. Anything you'd want to relay with it would naturally come out in your main storytelling, and ought to. Sometimes I couldn't even read the text on the pages, and that's not a good experience. Same goes for documents inserted in videos. Exploring what happened to some degree with the Barrere family seems unnecessary unless you greatly justify it later, and the hiking family death video was unnecessary. The only justification for that is if it's revealed the harvester doesn't paralyze you at all and it was a lie by National Living Meat Research. In that event, then I can kind of understand why you did it. The format of having each video after the documentary follow its pattern in the documentary is clever. I do enjoy that. And again, you are a fantastic illustrative artist and practical effects worker. Every single time you brought that skill set in here, the project soared. Keep leaning into and developing your absolute strengths here. It is to your advantage and the audience's greatest enjoyment. Ultimately, Vita Carnis is a project that has really, really clear and effective strengths and moments that make the best of them. If that kind of dedication was applied to all aspects of the project, this would be a juggernaut. And I believe the level of satisfaction the creator would feel would really let them know how worth it the increase in skill was. I believe we're going to see much more of that in Season 2 though. New Beginnings probably was a new beginning. And now a personal note that I feel I must say when it comes to how heavy my critique has been for this. When you're really good, you are good enough for the full level of critique. If I can help the creators who want absolutely the most out of their projects fix up any areas where they are lacking and create opportunities for themselves by making the adjustments as creators that show they have the skills, I'm going to be the pusher. And this is an environment now online in which people who can give you major opportunities for creative fulfillment and careers are watching what happens. Kane Pixels is the start. I repeat, Kane Pixels with the backrooms is the start. If my critique can in any way help a creator who is dedicated to their work and development get to a better height to be considered for a greater career opportunity and the fulfillment of their vision to the highest degree, I will be the hard-nosed teacher. If getting there means pushing you, then I am going to push you, especially when I see the potential. Quite simply, you're worth it. Thanks again for coming by the Nightmind office for a live visit. Debut merch is still available for a short term. All these items here, but not for much longer. We're going to close very soon. It does support me directly, and the link to the debut merch is in the video description below. I'm still working on Nightmind scripted videos, including that big one I've mentioned. That may take a bit, but in the meantime, I'll be making smaller uploads and you can catch my streams on Twitch. Be sure to follow there so you don't miss when I'm live. I'll post my schedules and live notifications here on the YouTube community tab, so subscribe to get those notifications and keep receiving videos like this. If you want more stream edits, I have Spencer Lackey's ASL, the debut night project hiding in my home, and the surprising index series How to Henry. Thanks for visiting, and until next time, sleep tight.